Come on.
Good thing he said that before.
Attorneys, I tell you, you
You
know,
watch that phone either way. So.
right?
You have to forgive him for something.
Rodgers have a big game.
Can you focus for a little bit here? Just a little? Come on. All right, 6 o'clock, let's start. We'll say the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we got everybody here tonight. Sarah came screaming in at the last minute, but we're all here. That's great. And Brent, you said we're going to keep this to 30 minutes, right? Is that what you're...
You control that, Corey.
All right. On the regular agenda, there was no changes to that, right?
Not to the regular agenda.
Okay. I'll look for a motion to accept unless you guys got a change I wasn't aware of.
No, I can make a motion to approve the regular agenda.
Yummy. There's a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay, on the consent agenda, you had one extra, Brent?
Okay, on the consent agenda, it would be request to add item B.1, which would be checks written in August. So you'll typically see vendor invoices, and then about a month or so later, you'll see those items show up after a check has been written. So it'd be adding in checks written in August of 2021.
Anything magical about any of those, or just
No.
do we just gotta acknowledge them?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions on any of that? Otherwise, I'll look for a motion to accept the consent agenda with the addition of the checks written in August.
Motion to accept. Second.
Okay, Sarah does an start, and Chelsea does a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, on to the minutes. Anybody see anything on there that was different than what was written?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting, September 7th.
Okay, Jeff makes a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Chelsea does a second. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, I'll open up for public comment. Anybody got anything you want to chit chat about tonight? Going once, going twice. All right, we will move on. Sheriff's update. There he is. You hide in the back like it's church or something.
You know me.
There you
I
go.
like the darkness, so.
I did get your, or got you guys' email, so that did get out.
Okay. Yeah, Ross did a report this month. Alrighty, so I'll just read through what he wrote. This month we experienced 128 calls of service. In August, our officers either hosted or assisted with both Forestry Night 2 Night and Horse Bean Days. The turnout for both was fantastic, and it was great to see everyone out enjoying themselves after the events were canceled in 2020. Our office looks forward to any future events that allow our relationship with the community of Horace to further prosper. So yeah, I had intended to attend Horse Night 2 Night. Unfortunately, I had a death in my family and wasn't able to attend due to that. I was able to attend the Bean Days parade, so I was out hucking candy at all the kids. So.
I thought maybe you were collecting the candy.
Oh no,
Doing that end of it.
No, Ross was in charge of the candy. I was just handing it out. So what he did with the extras, that's on
Yep,
him.
out of sight, out of mind.
There was 4 crashes. I just looked those up. 3 of them were, well, one was in front of the elementary school, one it looked like in front of the high school, another one was like a driveway incident between roommates' vehicles. The 4th one was alcohol related. Unfortunately, that person that time did not get cited because of circumstances on it. I can tell you that same person was just recently arrested by both the Highway Patrol for DUI in our office as well a couple weeks later. So he's getting attention.
Yeah.
Other than that, there was, just the usual kind of, minor drug stuff during some traffic stops, and then that's what the other alcohol-related stuff is too as well. Nothing that's stood out too much. I do know our deputies were just responding to another copper theft in a vacant house just down here on County 14 as I came on. I'm sure the citizens have noticed the creepy deputy that creeps around the new construction at night. That's me, typically. Doing it for a reason to try and keep that kind of stuff out of the new developments and that.
Right.
I do ask for the help for the people in the outlying areas if they see anything. I always hear that, we're afraid to call, we don't want to bother you guys, but I mean, that's our jobs. you know, it's a huge county, we rely on everybody, so if you see something that looks goofy, if it turns out to be nothing, no harm, no foul, you know? So that's all I ask is that, you know, just for their help, so.
Are you seeing anything with like the contractors getting hit too now, or is it just
Knock-
they're hitting the abandoned houses?
Yeah, knock on wood, so we had the ones down south that were on the news on 81, down by Oxbow, those were houses getting prepared to be moved. And then this one here was the only other one really I've been noticing. Again, my style, I hope has been helping prevent some of the stuff in the new
Yeah,
construction
yep.
that we saw last year.
Right, because
I don't want to give away all my strategies.
No. I just know last year we had that, and I was just wondering, you know, I hadn't really heard a lot this over the summer, whether that had been an issue, so.
I think we had one trailer so far this summer, and that's been.
Well, that's a lot better than last year.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't
Man.
wanna, you know, like I said, I have a style that I think hopefully deters that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the
so-
efforts on that, because that's.
So yeah, and I've talked to citizens, if they ever see me out creeping around at night, it's usually me. If it doesn't have a light bar on top though, please call, so.
Fair enough.
Otherwise, there was a few parking citations I issued. Again, we're getting closer to winter, so I'm gonna be more vigilant with that as winter comes along.
Okay.
That's really when I hit that kind of stuff. And I know there was some talk about maybe reviewing some parking stuff too at some point, so.
But as far as any patterns, you're not seeing anything increasing that we need to be aware of or
For
concerned about? Just in
anything in
general?
general?
Any
No, I think-
drugs or alcohol-related issues or anything like that we?
No, I think it's been a very good summer, really, to be honest with you. I know it's my first year here, my first full year, but, yeah, I've been happy with the way things went this summer, and
Yeah, I'm not
don't see
certainly
any
not.
major issues unless anybody else has any comments, concerns, or questions.
It was the contractors that in the last 2-3 years have taken a beating in certain areas, so I'm glad to see that that's gone down, because that was a big deal last
Yeah,
year.
it was, yeah. And that was one thing, like I said, I came in here and I've been trying to address just with my style of
Yep.
policing, so.
Don't know, I
Hopefully it's making a
appreciate that.
difference.
Have the animal calls predominantly been pets that have gotten loose or things of that nature, or have we had any natural occurring animal calls?
Let me double check for you real quick, give me 1 second. I forgot to look at those.
That's okay, it's not top priority, but the reason I ask is because it's getting to be fall.
Mhm.
Hunting season is coming up.
Yeah, they
We
usually
are in
pick up.
close proximity to an area where hunters will be flocking to, and I wanna make sure that we're keeping an eye on
Yeah,
some
let
of
me
that.
pop through these here real quick. This one was a dog out and about in somebody's backyard. Looks like it was found and the owner was talked to. Somebody was notifying that they got to count a calf out. So again, with the way our system works is it can be rural calls. It's anything with Horace addressing.
Yep.
So a lot of these can be outside of the city limits as well.
Okay.
This one's a black feral cat. Cat was picked up. Oh, the rabid skunk attacked the complainant's dog.
Oh, rabid skunk, wow.
They took care of the skunk, it looks like the homeowners. This was a rural addressing as well. So, looks like they dispatched it, which obviously you have the right to do, at least out in the country. I wouldn't advise it in city limits. So I did have to take care of one earlier this summer along the help of somebody with the city, so.
Yes.
Another cat.
Small cats, good.
Yes. no
I'm
big
just
cats.
asking, I had some mountain lion activity to the north of me a couple months ago.
Wanda Cheyenne there?
Yes, obviously I've been gone for a couple months, so I wasn't sure if there had been anything in that realm that had come. I know they had had several calls, a rash of calls over a period of a couple weeks on 52nd Avenue
Mhm.
and along the Cheyenne and whatnot, and I had some very strange large beasts that showed up and then were promptly eaten in my backyard. So,
One that I just looked at was somebody's dog's got off the leash when she was walking. This one looks like somebody inadvertently caught a squirrel in a live trap.
doesn't sound like anything major, but with
No.
hunting season coming, we wanna make sure we're.
Yeah, and another dog off the leash is the last one, it looks like here, so, or a
Good.
found dog, so, yeah, no, nothing that would stand out to me or be concerning, kind of the typical stuff, so.
Thank you.
No, didn't look like barking complaints or anything like that. It's dogs getting loose, which they're animals and will happen.
Do you keep track of that, like in like your files or something? Like, what if it was like a repeat offender? I had somebody reach out to me and they were asking about why is my neighbor allowed to have their dog running around, and so I'm just wondering, like, if they were to get called in, is it recorded in some capacity
As long
or
as,
another?
yeah, so as long as it can be one of two ways. When the person calls in, either they give their address, and that's what it'll be listed under as the complainant's address, or they can say it's my neighbor's at this address. Me personally, I would rather see them give the actual neighbor's address if possible, or if I go to like a barking dog call, I always try to change it to the address where the actual dogs are for that purpose.
Yeah.
We don't have like a running tally, but I can see previous calls that are attached
Okay,
to
so do
addresses.
you normally just give like a quick warning
So,
first? And
yeah,
then-
so our, it's not like a written policy, but it's kind of how we do things. And of course, we always add people's names to those runs too, so like when I run somebody's name, it'll pop up, and if I see animal, I'll call,
Yeah.
under their name, I can track it that way. Typically, the way the sheriff's office likes to do it is we'll give a verbal warning to start with. A lot of times I'll print out even the animal ordinance and give it to them.
Okay.
Second time is typically we'll do a written warning, and then third time and subsequent times is usually when we'll start citing.
Yeah.
And after so many cites, it can actually go to a B misdemeanor where they could be arrested for.
So it's
or
just kind of
minimum.
up to your discretion?
It is our discretion, but that's kind of the way a sheriff, and
Yep.
I mean, like I said, I understand animals get off and it happens, so we try to give that benefit of the doubt. I think 3 times is plenty of warning, or 2 times before is plenty of warning, so.
I think she was just concerned because the dog can be a little bit
And call, yeah,
You know.
I mean, that's certainly call us.
too
It's-
much.
Aggressive.
Yeah.
And that's what, like I said, we're here for.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, some nights it's quiet, and we're, you know, I'm doing my thing, obviously, but it wouldn't bother me to go check on some.
Okay.
All right, anybody got any other questions? All right, Craig, thank you very much.
Really quick, Craig, did
Yep.
you mention the new deputy that'll be here next year?
Yep, so that's gonna
So-
be Jacob Murray.
Yep.
So I think I think me and Jacob will work good together. So he's a good mix, I guess, between me and Ross. So he's kind of in that middle ground. So.
So when it gets closer to the end of the year, we'll ask.
Yep,
if we
I'll
could-
bring him down.
If we get him to come, as it gets closer to the new year, we'll ask that he comes out and just introduce himself. So
Mhm.
council is aware of him. Krause will drop off, and then the new deputy will come on. So
Yep, just
Yep.
like I did at the beginning of the year.
Yep.
We'll bring him down and I'll introduce him and I'll show him what I've been working on and all that fun stuff.
Sounds good.
I look forward to another year, so I've rather enjoyed it down here. So.
Good,
Thank you.
thanks. All right, Brenton,
okay,
5 minutes, here we go. You're on the
5
clock,
minutes.
baby.
Oh. Okay, I will try to run through.
I'm kidding.
Just some of the highlights within the budget. If you have any questions on them, please let me know, interrupt me as we go. On general fund, overall, total revenue that we have for budget for the 2022 budget would be $2,154,468. Total expenses would be the same. Under revenue, some of the biggest influencers, one is we are trying our best to keep the mills the same. The mills rate is 60.48. So what that does is it gives a little bit more predictability of, somebody knows what their property value is, then they can find out, backtrack a lot easier, what their taxes would be. Other entities may increase or decrease their mills. I believe some entities are increasing them this year. Our goal is to keep it the same within this budget. We based the planning and zoning permit revenue off of 260 homes. To give you a comparison, we're right around that 230, 250 mark right now. Talking with some builders, we anticipate we're going to be more in that probably 260 to 280 range. Could very well get up to 300, but I think we're going to fall around 260 to 280. That's just residential new homes. I do not factor in commercial. That can be a wild card. You don't know exactly how much commercial you'll have at a given time for the next year, because commercial gets influenced more heavily by what your economy is doing. So I can say that since we have developed the budget, this preliminary budget, we have had some increase interest from different parties of having commercial in town here. I anticipate we're going to have quite a few commercial items or industrial items, buildings, permits happen next year. Also franchise fees under that line item. The reason why it's up to 100,000 is we'll be coming to council here with a ordinance update for electric in hopefully near future. We're at the point where Lucas and their attorney are going through final revisions, and I hope to have that to council there, and that would be accounting for a franchise fee for electric. Under for expenses, just some of the main things. Plan on keeping, well, we have budget in here, 2 deputies still. We've tried working with Cass County about approaching the topic of adding more deputies, and they're having a hard time filling the positions they even have right now. And this was, adding another deputy in Horace wasn't their top priority. They're focused on jail the most. Under staffing, we have budgeted up where we have some wiggle room to go higher if we need to for a COLA, but I have budgeted a 4% COLA. We did not do a COLA for cost of living adjustment in 2021. So that's why we're at that 4%. County, I believe they're at right around 5, I think it was 5.1 or 5% increase. And other jurisdictions we're talking around that 4 to 5% range. When other communities across state were looking at doing their budgets. Some were lower, some were higher. So that's where we're coming from, the 4. Also because, like I said, we didn't do an adjustment for 2021 budget. Also, I have in here budgeted for the city engineer position. Council authorized us to create that position. We never filled it, but we may reassess that position and go, okay, does it make more sense to fill it with this other type position or not? So that gives us some flexibility there. So it may be, maybe go out with the engineer still to have on staff, or it might be get a project manager, for example, that would be doing a lot of the items that the engineer does, but we would still rely on the consulting firms to do our engineering assistance. Under insurance, there is a slight increase. That is due to fluctuations if you have with new positions. We're trying to fill a couple positions. We don't know the dynamics of those individuals, if they're just themselves or their family, their age or anything. I can't ask that information, and to those prospective applicants. Well, if an individual has a family and let's say they're older, they will cost more for insurance than if it was a younger person that's just by themselves. We're not going to make a decision hiring based on that. We don't do that. I don't even ask dynamics of individual's family because that shouldn't be a consideration. It's not one that we do. But that's why we have an increase there, is we've added a couple positions, but then also we don't know the dynamics of those individuals when we do have those positions filled. So it gives us a little wiggle room. One item that I think catches some folks' eye, under real estate taxes, we go from 0 to 80,000. That's paying city's share for special assessments, such as like pond lots or any property that we have special assessments towards. We're paying that, our portion. So that's where that comes from. We still have a 10% split or share of state aid. We give 10% to parks, 10% to fire. That results in about $46,000 that's budgeted. How that's set up is we get paid, when we get paid that, we'll disperse that to those 2 entities, giving them 10%. So if we get less state aid than what we have budgeted, they get less. If we get more, then we'll give more. We're putting some money into equipment reserves and also a general reserve for general fund, just starting to establish that. We do not have a general fund reserve fund right now. We're trying to establish that. So we're trying to get a little seed money in there. If we have a good budget year, which I anticipate we will this year, then we could get that started a year earlier. We could start it this year. And then also helping out the highway fund. So, and helping out the highway fund is the tune of $128,500. So, any questions on general? Okay, that's the longest one. The other ones I'll go through really, really quick. Yep.
Can you talk to me about like the wage increases again?
For a COLA,
Is
that
that
what-
like the,
it's basically saying your cost of living, you adjust it by a certain percentage, because
Okay.
that is what it would take.
and you're going up how much?
What it is in here, what we have budgeted is a 4%.
4%
And we did not
wage
do one.
increase?
We did not do one last year, where a lot of communities were
And
doing.
that's straight across the board, everyone
It's
gets a
across the
4%?
board. It's across the board. It's adjusting all the positions by a certain percentage.
Do you do
because
merit raises?
We do have merit raises, so, and that's based on performance, so.
Yeah, so
We-
is that in that budget too?
Yes, we have that account for
Okay.
within the budget, so.
Is that something that like you decide, or do you bring it to the HR portfolio?
The merit raises,
Mhm.
that's something that I typically will consult with the mayor and HR
Okay,
council member that has that portfolio. So,
sounds good.
by ordinance, I could do that, but I still consult with
I appreciate
them.
that.
Yeah. Okay. Any others on general? Okay. Trying to hurry up. Lucas has a football game to watch, so. Under highway fund, we do show a slight increase with highway tax distribution, just under $10,000 increase. We anticipate a slight impact on that dollar amount because of our population increase from the census, but we don't know the exact impact it'll have yet. So that's the big thing there. Transferring in the $128,500 from general fund. The challenge with highway fund is highway fund only has the highway tax distribution as its revenue source, so that's why general fund helps it out. It only helps it out as much as it needs to, not giving a whole lot more, because we'd rather keep the flexibility in the general fund, not the highway fund. Because general fund can help out highway or any other areas, highway fund can only help out the highway fund. Water fund, we've accounted for a phased increase. We account for going up to the 1950 for a base right now. So the first half of the year, the second half of the year accounts for going up the next increase. So that's where we get that rate. On for hookup and tap fees, that number is conservative at $11,250. If we get more houses built within the Horace service area, then obviously I'll go up, but I wanted to be conservative on that. And then the other big change for the water fund, and you'll see this within highway, water, and sewer, is under salaries. Water fund, we changed the split with sewer and highway, so it's more across the board, about the same. I believe they're right around 35, or 30, 35, and 35. That way, they're more reflective of what staff's time is being put towards. For water and sewer, they spend a lot of time doing locates, so that's where a lot of our staff time is right now with all of our growth and different things happening in town. Our staff spends quite a few hours doing locates. That was for water. Sewer, we're showing the rate being stable, stayed the same. We're basing the tap fees on 260 new homes. And then, like I said, salaries, there's the change in the wage split. Also under system improvements, we're doing manhole repairs for up to 30,000 is what we have budgeted. What that would be is going and putting, patching up manholes where they need to be patched up and then lining them. That helps increase the useful life of them, makes them last a lot longer. Also, we have set aside dollars for equipment reserve. That would be for financing a vac trailer. That is a pretty helpful piece of equipment to be able to find out where lines are without having to dig. You could basically put it down to the dirt and it sucks up all the dirt and makes it to where you're not cutting into it, where you risk cutting those utility lines, especially with like DRN, they're having more fiber in town here, and we have electric and other fiber or those different things. We don't want to be hitting those lines, so that's what the vac trailer helps us with. And then also adding dollars into our reserve fund. As we grow, it's very wise to have a reserve fund built up for all of our utilities. That's something where you'll see a trend with with all of our budgets, or most of our budgets.
What's that rate on average, Brenton, for reserve? Is that a 2% to 5%?
There isn't a set rate right now that we're trying to put in there. It's just we're trying to put in just a little bit as we can. And then as we have good budget years, we'll put some in there. General practice, you'd want to have at least, I believe it's 25 to 35% of your operating fund within a fund balance. But then your reserve fund helps you out on top of that. So I like to have it, my overall goal, I'd like to probably get at least 20%, if not more.
Across all the funds?
Each of
into
the
that one
funds of
fund.
the operating. The other thing too is that we have to have more in the utilities like water and sewer. If we borrow money through the state revolving loan fund or SRF, then we have to have enough set aside in reserve or dedicated for that to be able to make 1 year's full payment. So that's why you see, if you look at the fund balance sheet for or the financial statements for water fund, for example, right now we have 42,200. 42,200 is the amount we need for our water meter loan that we have a state revolving loan for.
Good.
So we've earmarked that aside, so that way we won't touch that to be in compliance with SRF rules. So
It's extremely important
Mhm.
having a reserve, and I can speak to that being on the call and the focus and the discussion that was placed on that with Colliers and several others was a really big deal. So I want to make sure that we're covering enough of what is needed, and it appears as if we've done that. Thank you.
yeah, and they like to see a trend of we're at least trying to throw a little bit. Even if you could throw a couple thousand in every year, that's good. So, but yes, we're trying to build those funds, create those funds for each of our budgets that we have. Any questions on the utilities? I'm trying to go quick, so. Solid waste, the reason why you have increase there is we're trying to account for increased number of new homes. You're looking at through annexations and through all the new homes that are being built in commercial into the city, industrial. Obviously your costs for trash are going to increase. So that's what we're trying to account for, is the increase in all those. We're basically adding in about another 25% of what we were before. So 25 to 30%, that's what we're accounting for, is that growth. Overall, under expenses, what we're anticipating is about 365,000 goes for trash, and 15 would go for compost bins. That's the ballpark we're looking at right now. And then as for system improvements, that would mainly fall under the compost area. If we do improvements over there, that's what that is for. Okay. Vector, pretty basic. We don't have any drastic changes on that one. Overall budget for that is 41,550, and then we show expenditures about that too, or same. And then forestry is very similar. We'll have some changes. We'll probably have to amend the forestry budget next year, as we were talking about forestry programs and ideas of what we could do in our last city council meeting. We'll probably have some adjustments to this budget next year through amendment. We might have a situation where we decide to spend down the fund balance a little bit. Another thing looking into is, can we become a tree city, USA? I've had some of the questions asked about that one, so we're looking into that. If we do that, then we have to do certain things like show that we're spending X amount of dollars per number of residents that we have in our community. I think it's $250 per resident or something like that. So those are things that we're looking at on that one. We're not showing a rate increase or change for forestry fund at this time, or vector. Sales tax, this one, we have budgeted in for revenue 650,000. I do want to stress that that is likely another conservative year. if you look at our financial statements this year, we've pulled in, what is it? I believe it was over 725,000. Pull it up here real quick. Oh, just under 800,000. 783,000 is what we pulled in revenue just this year for sales tax. But keep in mind, we have big construction project going on in town, the high school. So that could skew it. However, we do have other things happening in our community. We'll likely have next year. We'll have development activity. We'll have road project activity. Yes, we pay sales tax even on our own road projects. And then also all the new homes being built, things like that, in the commercial or industrial. So we'll still have quite a bit going on. I anticipate we'll generate more in the 650 to 650,000 is, I'm hoping it's conservative. I think it is, but I'd rather be conservative on that end also. So, like I said, this year, just under 800,000 as of the end of August. I don't know if we'll get to the $1 million generated, but I think we'll be close. So, yep. Okay, with that, that's all I had. Any questions? No, I'm ready for questions, so. Yep.
Okay. If nobody has any questions, what we need to do is approve the budget tonight, so we're looking for a motion to approve the budget.
I'll make that
Oh,
motion.
we need to do a public hearing.
Oh, public hearing first.
Yep, you need to do a public hearing.
Okay, I'll open it up for a public hearing. I see that. I was one step ahead to help out Lucas. All right, so I'll open up the public hearing. Anybody got any comments?
I'd like to say thank you for your hard work on the budget. It's all very clear and written out in front of us so we can understand it clearly, and I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, I'm gonna close the public hearing. So now we'll get on with it.
Now I will make a motion for the approval of the budget.
All right.
And also, thank you as well, Brendan.
All right, so Sarah makes a motion, and can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, Jeff does a second. Did I got a roll call this one, being it's money?
I would do so.
Okay, I'll do that. All right, we'll roll call it. Sarah?
Yay.
Naomi?
Yeah.
Chelsea?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
All right, that's unanimous, motion carries. All right, let's go on to 9. Jim, you got this one.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council. As we discussed at the last meeting, Key Contracting has sent us a letter. They're the contractor on Water Improvement District 2020-7. The letter outlines a long lead time for the meter pit. They have indicated of their key milestones of when they have signed the purchase order and shop drawings for that meter pit. With that being said, they placed the valve out order on 8/6. Project bid date was 8/5, so they took the initiative themselves to get that order, knowing that it's a long lead item. And with that being said, the vault delivery will be in allowing 2 weeks for shop drawing review. Delivery of the valve vault will be approximately March 7th, 22. So they're asking for 8 weeks from a delivery date to install the vault, backfill the structure, perform startup, and finish the punch list. The long lead time is due to any number of things in the current bidding environment. So what we want tonight is just an acknowledgement that we're all right with that. Like I did say, Key has went above and didn't get they signed the PO before they had contracts with the city, knowing that it was gonna be a long lead item. So we'll prepare a change order to get this out. And they are working on the project with every intention of getting every bit of it finished by the original completion date, minus the meter vault. And when that comes, they'll get it installed. So we discussed this at the last meeting, but I had gotten it not in time to get it on the agenda, so we're on the agenda now.
Jim, I'm gonna add some commentary there, because everybody knows how I feel about contract extensions that are late. However, in this particular case, this contractor is on the ball, and they have requested an extension in advance of being able to start work, instead of at the very end of the project, meaning reactionary way. So they're being very proactive, they've released their materials before even receiving finalization of contracts. I wholeheartedly support this type of proactive behavior and have absolutely no qualms whatsoever about approving this request, given the long lead times that they can foresee for what is coming.
Yeah, and that's just it, being we're running into this situation here where we've got lead times on some of this stuff, but it's not really, it's out of their hands.
Yep.
So we need to allow for that. So I really don't have any problem with this either. I'd say, unless somebody else got an issue with it, I'd say we let her prove it and let's move on. So somebody wants to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Sarah makes a motion.
Second.
Chelsea does a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Go to 10. Lucas, you got this one.
Yes, so Mr. Mayor, council, at your last meeting, we discussed a resolution for the assessments proposed in the Maple Lake Estates Sewer Extension Project. So what I did is I drafted up a resolution so you guys can see it before you approved it. Basically what it's doing is it is outlining what was discussed at our previous meeting, which is this sewer extension runs down to the new Maple Lake Estates addition. Part of that project will actually have a benefit to properties that already have private septic systems. And so what this does, this resolution says that those properties will receive a benefit from this extension, but the city doesn't feel that those property owners should be paying assessments at this time. So what it does is it takes that allocation and puts it on the city's storm water or storm pond in Maple Lake Estates Edition, and just allocates the cost onto there. And then at such time as residents that are currently connected to private septic systems want to connect to the city's septic system, they'll have to create a project and then pay their local assessment cost and then also pay a connection fee. And so this just outlines that in a nutshell.
Yeah, this is pretty much what we talked about, getting set up, so.
And then I think you had asked at the previous meeting for kind of a background into it, and so that's what those whereas clauses kind of define what's going on with it or what led to this resolution.
Why we're here.
And then the actual what's happening is in the 1 through 5.
So this relates to the policy, the special assessments policy that you guys are working on, this way of handling?
I was gonna say, this sets.
The plan is to incorporate something to this
This.
effect or have a discussion on something of this effect into the policy. So we don't have to do this again.
Every time.
Yeah.
That's the plan. What's the plan?
Yep, and I just wanna make sure that we're, you know, being consistent, so that's why I asked. And
Yeah, and so this
we
kind
wanna
of
get
applies to properties in Country Acres and then Sunnyside.
Rivers
Sunset.
Bend.
Sunset.
Rivers Bend.
But it would be the taking
Basically,
the
whichever
amount.
properties in the district that are connected to private septic systems at this
And we
time.
still have
It
a
does
few
not
of those.
apply to agriculture property.
Yep.
But it's basically saying that the tap fee would be reflective, when they connect onto the sewer, they would have a tap fee. It's acknowledging they have a tap fee.
there might also be fees to run it
They're,
out to them.
well, they would have their
That's the
local
local
improvement.
project.
Yeah.
Yep.
But in regards to any of those costs for the specials, that's being handled by the sewer fund. And then when they connect onto city sewer, they pay their tap fee.
Gotcha.
And that would be their connection. So that tap fee, right now, it's $750. In 2 years, it might be $750, it might be $1,500. We don't know, we haven't determined
Make
that,
sure
but
things are covered.
it's, is that correct, Lucas? That's what you're saying then? Is they would be subject to the tap fee as their connection there, and
I don't, where is that stated here? Because it appears to me as if this is a deferred benefit, right? So they're getting a benefit, but because they're currently on existing septic, just like I am and all my neighbors are, that they don't get the direct benefit until they actually connect to the system. So, Lucas, can you help me identify what outlines that they're responsible for a tap fee down the road, or some verbiage that clarifies that they do have a responsibility when they do choose?
So that's number 3. So in
That's
order to
number 3.
connect to the city's sanitary sewer system, the city will need to establish a local sanitary sewer connection project. Property owners within the local improvement district will be responsible for payment of a local sanitary sewer assessment for the local sanitary sewer project and a standard sanitary sewer connection fee
Yes.
at the time of connecting.
Excellent, okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
So this is kind of a one-off until we can incorporate this into
Yeah.
the actual policy.
Yes, and Councilmember Johnson, to your question, Section 4 addresses that the city will work to incorporate a similar policy into the city's overall special assessment policy.
So you're saying I should just read your notes and then I will.
Well, I had to read it too.
I had to read it too. I just
I drafted it last week, or the week before, so it is in there, yes.
This has been taking the feedback from the Special Assessment Commission, also from the public, and then staff, and even council members and mayor, just everybody wracking their minds around how can we make this to where the regional improvements for folks that are on septic, they're not getting socked with that. They're, when they do have local improvements, they are going to pay for the a connection fee just like anybody else. And like I said, if council could adjust that connection fee rate at any time. So that fee is set by resolution by the city council.
This is a very interesting way to do it. Is there any other community that does it like this that we're aware of? This is unique, and I believe really an olive branch being extended to those of us that are currently on septic, but will have the potential for future benefit without having to pay out of pocket 100% up front. This is very unique.
There are similar concepts, but not handled in this fashion that I'm aware of. Across the country, but we
This
didn't
handles
compare.
a lot
Yeah.
of the concerns and complaints that I've heard, not only in this
Yeah.
room, but also in sidebars and whatnot with many residents, so nice work.
Well, I guess 2 years ago, we weren't in a position to be able to even
Yeah,
think
we were-
about this.
Right?
Yeah.
We are not in a financial position to do that, where sewer fund is in a
Yeah.
financial position now, because you have the growth going on in the community, that all those tap fees that we have, they're investing in infrastructure, and then when, like I said, those properties connect onto it, they're investing into it too.
So I do have one question. What I don't see in here was any of the interest from the city paying the special assessment towards that stormwater pond. Is the city going to be taking care of that?
Yeah,
Not? Okay, go ahead.
The city would be taking on all those costs.
Okay.
There's no interest, it doesn't come back and hit the residents that are on
'Cause I know
septic
there
at all.
were some residents thinking that,
Yeah.
if this was like a normal special assessment, they would just pay it down or pay it off instead of acquiring interest, but it looks like the city is picking up the interest.
It has, the city can choose to pay off the specials towards the pond
Okay.
early, or just pay it out over the life of the
Understood.
bond. As for the residents, there really isn't a deferred interest that impacts them, because they are not paying that at all. They're paying,
It's
they're
just
just
their
their tap fee, their connection fee, just like anybody else, so.
Just wanna make sure I
We-
understood it correctly.
Yeah, and what we're overall trying to do is flat out simplify this as much as possible, because this could get really complex if we were using this approach as like a deferment of specials. That would be really messy over time, especially you have this happen over a couple of years. That could get really messy, where this really simplifies it and makes it to where we don't have to get into tracking interest rates and different things like that, so.
All right, any other questions or concerns on this one?
No, I like this.
Yep. This is where we wanted to land with this, now that we're in a position to be able to do it.
So when that special assessment gets, just getting into the weeds a little bit with budgeting, obviously you said that was paid for out of the sewer fund. Then do you allocate your specials to the different funds?
We would have special assessments tied from that pond lot And that's one area that we'd have to keep track of. So if you remember, like in the general fund, we were talking about the 80,000 because we have costs for special assessments. Well, sewer fund would have a line item in its budget in the future that would be for paying
Tallying
specials.
everything.
And we'd say, okay, yep, we have to use this much. And we know that when we get the bill from the county for specials tied to certain lots, we have to allocate those funds from the sewer fund versus the general fund. So,
And this is only for lots that have septic and also
yes.
do not have the option to connect to the
Yeah.
city sewer system.
So ones that are on septic, they're not connected, connecting right now. Now, when they would pay would be when they would obviously be assessed for the local improvement. And they would also pay for that connection when they actually connect onto that local improvement. So, cause you could still have a local improvement, be assessed for that, and choose not to connect on the city sewer.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Does the special assessment committee have a copy of this, Lucas?
They will get it next Tuesday when they
Okay.
meet. They just asked that this be done before they meet. 'cause they
Okay,
didn't
I just wanna
want
make sure they get copies
Yeah.
of all this.
Outstanding.
All right.
Yep.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I'm gonna look for a motion to approve this, guys.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, Chelsea, Naomi. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, Lucas, let's get this thing done.
Sounds good. So the next one is if you're ready to move on, sorry.
Huh?
Are you ready to move on to the next one?
He's
Proceed.
anxious.
Yep.
I'm
I
sorry,
know, you're anxious, buddy. Go ahead.
I-
Get her done.
I wasn't even listening. So the next one is an ordinance that stemmed from, I believe, a request from the school. They are working with Casserole Water on installing water infrastructure to the school. They ask that meters not be installed on their fire suppression systems, specifically on the sprinklers. So if there is an emergency event, they don't want the sprinkler lines to be metered. Apparently it can reduce the flows, and I probably shouldn't be the one speaking to this, Jim probably should, but it has potential for reducing the flows, and they ask that the city have an ordinance in place that Casserole can then follow that says that sprinkler systems basically do not require a meter on them, so long as they're separate from the other water infrastructure in the building. So the only ordinance change that's in front of you right now is the red line, or the red sentence is being added into this ordinance. So as you can see, the way the ordinance is drafted now, meters are required on all water mains. So this just says that it's not required for fire suppression lines. And city engineer, administrator, and I think Adam all reviewed it.
Yep.
So would this be a situation too for, I'm thinking like the church and some of our other commercial entities around here, could they retrofit then? I mean, go back and change it so that their fire suppression systems could be, or is this just on new builds, or where we?
So it started as public, but I didn't think that was fair, so I just put fire suppression systems in general, so
Yeah.
no one would have to have a meter. And then it has to get approved by the city's building inspector or their designated representative.
Right, so that's, I'm just wondering if that, because I could see that where somebody may want to switch that over for just the.
So yeah, as
just
it's
like what you
drafted right
said.
now, nobody needs a meter on fire suppression systems, so if that needs to change, now would be the time to do that.
I mean, I don't see any issue with it, I'm just wondering about what was gonna happen when some of these other ones who've
So
been
then
around.
do we inquire the cost then? Like,
If
we would still have to pay the bill.
we could estimate out how much water is used based on knowing, okay, the sprinklers went off from this time to this time, and you get a general idea of how much water was used. Yeah, sprinklers is pretty rare, and your main priority when you have sprinklers going off anyways is getting the fire out.
Fire out or
Public
shut 'em
welfare,
off 'cause they're
safety.
running on their stuff.
Yeah, so, but does it give you, yeah, can quite a bit of water be used? Yeah, it can,
So
but
then we would just pay for it.
it could be
Is that what you're
estimated,
saying?
well, it could be estimated out. And then there could be a bill sent to the property owner for that estimated out water. There are ways of calculating it.
So the high school and the middle school are both in Cass Rural Water User Service Area. The way that Cass Rural operates, every point is metered. The only way around metering anything is if there's a local ordinance that goes contrary to what they are. The reason that the school doesn't want a meter is, number one, it's very expensive. They have to have a meter, and there's a meter charge every month until the end of the time. There's also the cost is a big one. The fire department, the fire chief, before he left, he told us it didn't make any sense in his mind to have a meter on the line just because it's a way of reducing the flows through it. So typically, if there is a fire, you can get the amount of water that was used through it, or get a good estimation of it, return it to the insurance company, and then you get reimbursed through that method. So it's not like you're just donating the water, it's just, you'd have to go through based on an estimate versus a meter.
I gotcha.
I guess the only concern I have in reading this ordinance is the final sentence, and maybe you guys can help me answer this question. It says that fire suppression systems may be constructed without meters, provided the valves are sealed, the water lines are separate from the other water lines, and the fire suppression system is approved by the city's building inspector or their designated representative. Should the fire chief be involved in the approval of the fire suppression?
They already inspect properties, so where there is a fire suppression system, that is inspected by a fire chief or the
I just
state
want to
fire
make sure
marshal.
that we are not overlooking the importance of our local fire department having a role in this in some way, shape, or form. I don't want to exclude them because the inspector official isn't necessarily the final say when it comes to fire suppression.
They do the
This is
overall.
just for the meter.
Yeah, this is just for the meter part, so that impacts the city, not fire. Fire goes and inspects the actual sprinkler system.
The actual
when
system
yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
So we're just referring to the meter itself
You
within this.
clarified that for
Yep.
me. Thank you very much.
Jim, do you know if residential suppression systems are on a separate line? 'Cause I mean, that's a smaller water line.
I don't off the top of my head.
The resident would have to pay for a separate line, and I don't know if they'd be even willing to do that.
Residents aren't gonna have sprinkler systems. though.
You would have to have a
Yeah,
massive
the nice
house.
house would probably.
Some do. It's
jurisdictions.
rare.
Well, my
but
old
there-
farmhouse doesn't.
There are
In
some.
Minnesota,
I couldn't let it burn.
They're starting to require it more and more.
Yes.
It's definitely could be a possibility of a required, you
Yeah,
know.
you'd have to have a pretty big house in North Dakota to
Or if
have
you-
that, but.
If you've been in a fire before, you might choose to put one in.
Yeah.
Something like that, but I know those are smaller water lines for residential, so they might just be on the meter.
Yeah, and so even right now, the way this is drafted, they wouldn't be required to have a meter.
Yeah.
I would think it's such a minuscule amount, I'm not gonna sweat that too much, it could happen, but again, we get back to estimate, we put in the deal with the insurance company, and it's the way it works.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if it starts becoming an issue, then evaluate it. It really doesn't seem
Yeah.
like it would be an issue.
It
I would say
also,
we're probably not gonna be thinking about this one very often.
to answer your question too, you're talking about residential using a smaller meter. If they have a fire suppression system, they have a house that big that would require it, odds are they would have a bigger connection there, I would assume. So they may have a different size meter in the house. It may be serviced by like a 1-inch line or a 2-inch or something. So
Yeah.
there's ways to work through that.
Yeah.
Okay?
I'll make a
Anything else?
motion to approve the sprinkler ordinance.
Okay, Chelsea makes a motion, can I get a second?
With the exception of adding one more S to your word suppression. Because Google spell check is calling you out on that.
I wonder whether that show up on my, no sweet police.
All right, Chelsea made a motion, can I get a second?
Second.
Jeff does a second. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
And this is just the first reading, so this will be back at your next meeting for second reading, so I'll make sure to get that correction.
I'm just teasing. I'm a horrible speller.
I did not send this to my para for review, so.
Lucas, was I supposed to do a public hearing then on this, being it was an
No.
ordinance change? Okay, just making sure.
That's for the land use.
Perfect. Okay, we'll move on to number 12 then. Jim, you got that one.
Yes. What you have before you for item number 12 is the creation of the district and a location map for water, sewer, storm, and street improvement district number 2021-7, also be known as the Deer Creek Estates Edition. As you can see on the attached map, the location map, this is east of County Road 17, north of Deer Creek Parkway, south of, that is, I believe it's the Ashwood Edition, and then west of Deer Creek. And the district boundary map is identified as Deer Creek Estates, which is the area north of the Deer Creek Parkway. And the area to the south, which will be eventually become the Deer Creek Estates Second Edition. The land south of the Deer Creek Parkway and the next parcel is owned by the same developer. And this assessment map was, or boundary map was proposed by them and agreed to by our office. So if you go to the next one, Sally, you can go down right there. So you'll see the assessment district is larger than the local area, but there is some regional component to this. And that's why we chose to put those south parcels in on it. And the developer owns all three of those, and this is their suggestion when we started this. For this one, we're probably looking at construction in spring of 2022. And probably bid it late this year, have it on the books over the winter and start right away.
What was the regional component, or the?
Stormwater.
Okay, any other questions on this one? Okay, it gets down, this is,
The lift station for this is gonna be, this side of the road or the west side of the road?
Lift station as far as sanitary sewer,
Yep.
be on the east side of the road, south of Deer Creek Parkway.
Okay.
okay, any other questions? Again, I'm gonna get the boilerplate, I'll do these separate, Jim, just for, but to a resolution creating the district, you guys have, they've agreed to that district, so I don't see any issues with that, so. Looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Jeff, Chelsea. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. We'll go on to the resolution directing preparations for the report and cost estimate. Anybody's got any questions on that? Otherwise, I'm gonna look for a motion to accept. It's pretty much standard operating procedure.
Motion to approve the resolution.
Okay, Chelsea makes a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Jeff does a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. All right, letter of credit recommendation. Brent, you got that one.
Russ has a question for you.
What? Oh, Russ, sorry, go ahead.
Is the land for the lift station been platted and sold yet?
We have an easement. Easement for the lift station.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm gonna turn that over once we plat it to get that into city.
All right, 13, Brent, go.
Okay. Letter of credit requirements. Earlier this year, council had some discussion in regards to letter of credit, in regards to some developers requesting consideration reduction of that requirement. Currently, our requirement is 75% of the construction cost. If they have, it's based on the engineer's estimate construction costs. If the project already bid, they had the opportunity to lower their letter of credit, or they base it on that bid amount. If the letter of credit has been received after that bid date, depending on the timing. The requests that we've had from developers over the last probably year or so has been to reduce it back down to 50%. Like I said in previous conversations, city council, they had, council chose to table this and have this conversation back here again in September. Here we are in September, so we're bringing this back for council conversation. If during your conversation you decide you would like to see other information, we can probably get that. However, it'll take longer for us to come back with that information. So wanted to be able to have a conversation with council, see where you're at. If you want to keep it at 75%, do you want to reduce it to 50? Do you want to go anywhere in between? What would you like to do? From a staff perspective, I would say if you do reduce it, don't go any lower than 50%. That's what I would say from the staff perspective. That's from how I'm seeing it there. The higher layer of credit you have does give more assurances that, yep, city's protected. However, you do have a lot of growth that's happening in the city. A lot of these lots are being bought before the development is even built. And a lot of them, the developer or builders are chomping at the bit to build a home. They want their building permit before we even, accept the development. So that is a variable, things at play. Housing market is booming right now in our community. It's probably not going to go away anytime soon, but things for you to consider.
So let me give a little history on why we are here with that. It was 3 years ago, we were at 50% with the letter of credit that we were allowing. Because of the boom that was going on, and we were concerned that the city's risk was gonna be brought to a more risky area that we didn't really wanna see. So we wanted to make sure that developers were really wanting to basically to play ball, than to get serious about it. So to get serious about it, you go up to 75%, they have to find that letter of credit. Yes, it's annoying, but it protects the city, and it also means that they're a player in the game here. The situation has changed substantially since 3 years ago. We've got a lot more stability, I should say, in the city. And I understand we've been hearing that since we jacked it up. The developers have been complaining about it, and they'll complain no matter what. They'd like to see it at 0, so I get that too. But I think too, I'm okay dropping it a little bit. I would be okay bringing it down to 65% at this juncture, and let's see where it goes. Again, we're here to protect the city, and we want to make sure that we are protected. And I agree with Brenton that we are at a lot different spot than we were then. But I don't want to bring it all the way down to 50. In fact, I won't go for that right now. But I will go for a 65%. If you guys are, if you want to lower it, that's where I'll go.
Yeah, and I remember the conversation as well, and I know we had a lot of work to do, and there was a lot of developers knocking at the door, and it was, I think, a little bit nerve-wracking because of all the work that we wanted to get done, prior to some of these developments going in and stuff. So it was a little bit to also deter development from happening. In the last 3 years, we've done a lot of work. We've got a lot, the special assessment policy and the ordinance. Those are two big things that are important for these developments. And those are, will hopefully be done soon. So I do agree that now is, I feel more comfortable too lowering it. Like you said, I don't necessarily see the need to take a huge jump, but we could take a step down, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I was thinking too. Thoughts?
Good question. So the current amount of outstanding bond debt that we have right now, does that play into as a factor in our interest rating from Moody's?
From my understanding is this is handled a little differently because it's backed by special assessments, not by the city's general dollars or by our utilities, all those. Lucas, if you wanted to expand, but it does impact it, but not drastic.
And
Yeah.
by having it at 75%, it forces the developers to move faster on filling vacant lots. Is that a fair statement? That way they can get their money back.
You're going to have the fastest movement right up front on a new development pretty much every single time. Really where you're going to have it slow down is that last
20%?
60, that last 20 to 40%. That's where it's going to slow down. Your last 20% is going to slow down a lot more, but then you start getting into the sunset clause of our developer agreements on that. So really it's that protection from around, and I'm giving you just a rough ballpark. I'm just an estimate, not exact science to this. Really it's going to be that last 20 to 40% of the development. Because like I said, your first 60% is just going to take off. That's what we're seeing right now. And I'll take like example, Southdale, Lost River 5th, Cub Creek are all right around 40% build out first year online. So roughly 40% of the development has been, we've had building permits out for homes to be built this year on all three of those. So it's that as you get farther out, that's where it slows down a little bit.
Yeah, the amount of growth is just insane.
Jeff, I want to give you a little bit of comfort here, and I happen to have the financial statements from last year here in front of me. And when this topic first came up this last spring, I dug my heels in pretty hard. You all recall the conversations we had about the city taking on liability and having the potential for a contractor or a developer that could default and having those costs spread against the city. One thing that we aren't discussing here is the fact of how the city has changed their approach in temporary bonding. We aren't doing permanent bonding at the time of we're doing temporary bonding now. And so I'm looking up the numbers just from last year and looking at what our temporary bonds were and whatnot, and then where we're at this year, knowing from the Moody's calls. And we're in a much different position after the calls in the last 3 to 4 months that we've taken this year than we were previously with all of the permanent bonding. So the liability has changed, it has shifted away from the city. There's still liability for the temporary bonding, but we are more protected now than we have ever been. And so I too had the initial heartburn about lowering that amount. I felt very strongly that it needed to stay at the 75%. However, based on what I'm seeing and some of the steps that have been taken, I won't go to 50, but I think that a good faith effort to take it down slightly with the fact that we can't keep up with the amount of lots that are being purchased and being filled before even ground is broken is a really good indicator that our liability is not nearly as high this fall as it was last spring and in the 3 years prior when these concerns came up.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I think we could go down a little bit. Like I said, I'm recommending we go down to 65. That's a step down, and we can see where it goes.
If
Again,
council-
we were going to evaluate this on a yearly basis, which is what we're doing now. We didn't do it last year, I guess, but
Yeah.
Well, we did, and we decided not to.
to push it on. Yeah, I guess we did. We did talk about it a
So
little bit.
if council does feel, say you go down a little bit, and then you feel that it is having negative impacts or too much on the city, then in the future you go back to 75%.
This is a living concept, and it's something
is.
that we can change every
Yeah.
3 months if we want to. Now,
Monthly
we
if
don't
we really
want
wanted to, but we don't.
We don't want to go that crazy.
No.
We want to have some consistency, but we agreed last spring that we would look at this and we would see how these developers were filling out their developments. And I can attest, just based on the walks that I take with my dog, that we're having no difficulty at all getting lots sold in this town.
No, and I think as long as that's still an ongoing event, like I said, I don't really have any problem bringing it down. Lucas?
Something else that the council did this year was, instead of that percentage being reflected on the overall cost of the project,
Right.
it now does it just based on construction costs, so that took that amount down quite a bit too.
Mhm.
Yep.
So that's just something to
To get-
consider.
Yeah.
Done a lot of stuff to help here,
Yeah.
and I think. go down.
So, with that being said, is it still feasible then to go down if we're, what Lucas just said, it's not for the full cost already, it's only 75%?
Well, it's for the construction
Of
costs.
the construction
Yeah.
Of
costs,
construction.
it doesn't include the administrative.
Yeah.
The soft costs.
Yeah, so your soft costs, administrative, legal, admin, those are not included anymore. So drops it down some.
And like I said, we can always bring it back up if we start to see some negativity that is not reflective of where we want to go with this, so. But again, I don't have any heartburn going down to 65, but I don't want to go any less than that at this
Well,
point.
one of the things that we expressed as a council that we want to see is not so much of this R6 development, some of the larger lots and things of that nature, and the beautification of our city, and it makes it extremely difficult to do that, keeping letters of credit high. Now, does that mean that we're gonna let any Tom, Dick, and Harry in here? Absolutely not. These have to be reputable and established developers that have a track record based on performance and making sure that they're paying their bills and doing things of that nature. I think we've stipulated that very clearly. But in order to free up some funding for some of these developers to give us the product that we want, I think this is a good step in the right direction without sacrificing anything having to do with the protection of our great city.
Right. All right, anybody else got any other comments? You guys wanna drop it? Wanna keep it at 75?
Brenton, are you sure you're okay with that? Like, we would be okay if something was to happen?
From the activity I'm seeing right now, the fact that if we saw issues in the future, we can always go back up. I'm not as concerned
I mean,
about that.
This might sound bad to the developers, but like,
Mhm.
my number one concern is
Yep.
the residents.
Yep.
So, like,
Yep.
I'm sorry, maybe that comes off harsh, but
No.
I'm more worried about the residents here than,
But that's why we
If-
talked about the risk
If we,
assessment.
if we didn't go over triple our building permits this year, if we didn't see the trend of it occurring again next year, I wouldn't be recommending saying that. I still think you need to have protection. That's why I'm saying, don't even consider anything lower than 50% because you need to have protection there. But a lot of these are moving, homes are being built. I've talked with a few builders already for their next year, what they're anticipating at a minimum. I had one builder indicate that they're going to build at least 80 homes that they have already marked off right off the bat. They're going to probably be throwing at us. That's just one builder. Now I got another builder that's basically bought out 2 full developments. So there's going to be a lot of movement there. I have other builders and some of the same ones, the other 2, that have indicated that they're having interest in either securing those developments up front right away and or just flat out developing it themselves to secure lots for themselves so they can actually get them because these are moving so quickly. I'll take like Southdale Farms, the first edition, even third. First edition was spoken for between 3 builders before the infrastructure was even done. They already had the builders lined up and the whole development was pretty much spoken for by those 3 builders. So based on that, that's where I'm going, hey, I'm not as worried about that. If these developments weren't moving, you weren't seeing building permits increase, then I'd be more concerned about that. Also, if you go, let's say, a 65% layer of credit compared to all our other neighbors, no, everybody's different. Our community's different. We're still 35% higher than our neighbors. West Fargo doesn't even do layer of credit. They require promissory
Yeah, but we're
note.
also
Promissory note
much
is that,
smaller.
hey, I owe you, and you can't collect on this too much. Fargo, I believe they're 25. Is that correct? Do you know? I believe they're 25. And I believe Moorhead was at 30, I believe. So,
And all
and
those
please don't
communities
quote me
have
on
a
it. I know they're
population
significantly
base that is
lower.
Astronomically different than
Yes.
ours, which is why I still
Yes.
believe in maintaining the higher letter of credit. I refuse to entertain going down to 50, but
you're okay with 60?
I am because, I mean, triple the amount of building permits, come on, that's
Yeah.
pretty obvious. It's a little common sense, you know.
Yeah. That's, and like I said, I know we have the highest layer of credit in the metro. We have one of the highest layer of credits, and we're doing these different angles to protect ourselves. So, but like I said, if we see a drop in the building permits, and say next year, this time next year, we have only 120, come back to council, say, council, we're not seeing the lots moving. Do you want up that layer of credit? And you guys could do that very easily.
Okay.
Because it's done by a motion from the council.
Yep. So somebody go ahead and make a motion if they wanna do, or we can just leave it and move on.
I'll make a motion to reduce the letter of credit to 65%.
I'll second that.
Sarah does a second. All right, I'll roll call this one just to make sure. Sarah,
Yay.
Naomi,
Yeah.
Chelsea,
Yeah.
Jeff?
Yes.
All right. Sounds good, and we'll keep an eye on it. All right, who's got the next one here? Jim?
Yes. Next on the agenda, we have Water Sewer Storm and Street Improvement District number 2020-1, Southdale Farms First Edition. We have change order number 2, balancing change order in the amount of an increase of $10,607.46. This balances the construction contract with the as constructed quantities. Considering this was a multi-million-dollar job, $10,000 to balance it out is pretty good. You can see on the attachment that we've got an increase of certain items, we've got a decrease on others, and this is just balancing that all out. So, nothing real, no real highlight of it, it's just as it.
I will give them points for getting it down to 10 grand on a change
Well,
order
we
for
probably-
that size.
Let's see, this one we did have a negative on the first one too, so we did pretty good on this one.
No. That's impressive.
Alright. Discussion first, or?
Is
Yeah,
this,
anybody got any questions on it, or?
what's the total balance of change orders on this entire project?
The total balance of change orders, this one had a negative 300,000 in the first one because we did some value engineering on a lift station and some deep sanitary sewer. So we're in the, they used a different form last time the other one form has what the total is on it to date, so I could look it up.
I'm looking at the original contract amount, and then I see this change order, but I know that this isn't,
There's a second.
this is one of several, so.
This is one of 2, so let me get what the first one is. First one was a deduct of $355,030.37.
And the second one here is an add of $10,000 on a $6 million contract. Nice work.
Okay, anybody else got any other questions? I was gonna look for a motion to accept the change order.
So moved.
Chelsea makes a motion, can I get a second?
Second.
Jeff does a second. Alright, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Alright, motion carries. Jimmy got the next one.
Yes. Next item is Water, Sewer, Storm, and Street Improvement District number 2021-1, Southdale Farms, 3rd edition. This is a change order number 2 in the increase of $35,358. This is for additional work on the turn lanes on County Road 17. The original plan was to keep 4-to-1 slopes on the County Road 17 side of it. After construction, during construction, the county came out and reviewed it, and they want to see some flatter slopes. We're seeing an awful lot of traffic coming up and down County Road 17. A lot of traffic coming in out of Southdale Farms Edition. With this project, we created turn lanes, and they want to see the slope flatter on the outside. So it's going to require a little bit of additional pavement to be taken off and some additional embankment to be put in there to flatten out those slopes.
What did they go to from 4-to-1?
5-to-1.
Really?
Yeah. And we could have, it was gonna be close the way it was, so we figured it'd just be better off to be safer. That's one of the things we've been working with quite a bit on County Road 17 is flattening out those slopes. We had the same kind of a deal with the not the shared use path, but the pedestrian crossing, where we had gone through, built it to the plan, built it to the approved plan, and then the county came back with it. So we'd like to see it a little bit flatter. Safety, lots of traffic, lots of people.
So what does that mean when, like, 17 would we be brought down?
So, once the county turns it over to the city, there's gonna be a mill and overlay on that road. So, it's going to be at the top of its maintenance cycle when the city assumes responsibility for it. So it'll be many, many years before it gets lowered and, say, widened, whatever, however you wanna look at it. This will all be just gone away with at that same time. So the existing pavement will have to go away, and these turn lanes and this additional pavement will go away with it. It's just the way it's an interim to get to that point.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll be down the road a ways.
Well,
That's what
and
we're
I mean,
hoping.
and that's what the county's plan is they get it up to a good level of service, and a good pavement condition, and then they hand it off to the local agency for your maintenance and operation of it. They don't just run it into the ground and then say, all right, it's yours.
Here's
That's
the
always-
keys, boys, have fun.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
That's always a fear of mine, we're gonna run it down so that the pavement curve is down.
No, Jason and I have talked about this. When we get the keys, it'll be in good shape,
They
so.
bring it back up.
Once, if we were to put in a stoplight, we would start having problems.
A stoplight where?
Well, you're gonna have traffic backing up and you're gonna need 2 lanes.
Yes, but there's a roundabout planned at 64th for 2023, 2024.
2023.
2023. We will definitely see how the traffic flow shapes out with Southdale Farms and Cub Creek and that. So I wouldn't dispute that there won't be a traffic light at some point along that
Yeah,
corridor.
I mean, we saw it go down Eagle Run. It's, to me, if a traffic light goes in, there should be 4 lanes.
Sure.
Because it's gonna happen real quick that it's gonna need to be redone and then people have to, it's just a mess. Especially anything north of the high school where that traffic is, if the light goes in on a 2-lane road, the morning traffic is just gonna be horrible.
One of the things you gotta look at is the time of the day. If it's impacted for 2 hours of the day too, does it make sense to have that additional lane? And I'm not saying that it does or doesn't. We'd have to do an analysis on it, but that's something that we looked at with 76th Avenue. If it's busy from 7:30 in the morning to 8:30, and then it's cars sporadic throughout the day, and then again at 2:30 to 4:30, and an occasional weekend if there's an event at the school. But all
Yeah,
that
I
gets
just
brought
can't
into
see
it.
anything would happen in Eagle Run be acceptable. I mean, that was horrible.
Right.
You gotta remember, there's 45th Street coming down, Patrick's coming
Yeah.
down.
That's what I'm hoping for. That's gonna alleviate some traffic going back. Stuff that comes 17, school, east, up, as opposed to backing up.
Yeah, that's a good point, because
If
45th,
we can get a
76th.
straight shot to 29, like right out of Horace, so people aren't going north to, or, just trying to get on the interstate, but
You're likely going to see a shift in traffic patterns once 76 and 45th are paved. You're going to see a shift in traffic patterns, most likely.
yeah.
Where some of that pressure, northbound traffic on 17, north of 76 is going to knock down a little bit. And then some of that, you'll see changes there.
Definitely need some good studies on those traffic lights, and if we could get, 81st or the street west of the diversion, if we could
Yes.
get that to bring people into West Fargo,
Yes.
that would be awesome.
Yeah.
We were talking about that earlier today and last week about north-south on the west side of the river.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
especially
right,
during
so
the busy-
let's get back to the change order here, so we can move along. Anything else that we need to know about that one on 15 there, Jim?
No.
Okay, and you guys have any concerns about that?
No.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion to accept.
So moved.
A second.
Okay, Chelsea, Naomi. All right, Chelsea made a motion, Naomi did a second. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is everybody, all right? Motion carries. All right, Jim, you got 16.
All right, 16 is Water, Sewer, Storm, and Street Improvement District number 2021-3. We like our things to be similar, water, sewer, storm, and street. This is a change order to increase the contract price in the amount of $186,255.58. It is a rather big one. There's a lot that goes on with this change order, starting with when this project was originally designed by the developer, they were out in front of the city as far as water requirements. So at that time, we were proposing we were thinking it was gonna become a 16-inch water main coming down from 63rd. This is the connection to Cass Rural, 16-inch down to the city, to the town. Well, once that project got further along and got through design of that, 12-inch was required. So we had to change that. You don't wanna have a 16-inch water main if you don't need a 16-inch water main. If you need a 12-inch, you put in a 12-inch. So, that got downsized from a 16 to a 12. There was additional storm sewer that needed to be added along 63rd Street South. I believe the design engineer anticipated that that sewer was going to come through the system, through their Lakeview system, where it didn't. That would be the area on 82nd Avenue. So 82nd Avenue, the first row of houses on Lakeview, the water comes off 82nd, the sewer comes off 82nd. None of it goes through the Lakeview addition. And the sewer for the Lakeview addition is kind of, it runs to the center and then over to a lift station, whereas 82nd utilizes the SSL gravity line on the west side as far as they can. And then there's a little chunk in the corner that has to be brought back to lift station, the proposed lift station 14. And that was omitted on the plans for some reason. Water main we got. To remove, salvage, and replace existing gravel from the roadway. Got that. Let me get to this one was rather involved. Addition of sanitary sewer service along 63rd Street South from the intersection of 82nd Avenue South to 63rd Street South is deemed necessary to complete the finished road surface section. So 63rd Street is already completed down to 82nd Avenue as part of that original project. Lakeview Drive brings it south to 82nd, and then it brings a gravel road further south to the diocese land where there's gonna be a lift station. And that was just a gravel surface for the time being, but if we're gonna put pavement on there, we have to put the utilities underneath it. And the thought with the gravel was, south of there was you didn't need to put the utilities in at this time. Well, if you're gonna put the concrete pavement on the north section, you have to put the utilities in. Okay, second was the revision of the water main. If all items have been added, we talked about the water main. Changes the water main. So the tie-in for the water main on the south side, Lakeview Addition is serviced by the City of Horace. It's in the City of Horace water surface area. When the plans were done, they showed connecting to the water main on the south side of the project. They assumed it was a City of Horace line, it was a Cass Merle line. So additional water main had to be installed to get it to the City of Horace limits, to the piping the City of Horace can provide. You can't service Lakeview without connecting to Cass Rural. That's part of one of the reasons that we're connecting to Cass Rural. And in order to do that, we had to bring the Cass Rural water all the way to the tower and then feed Lakeview from the city north. Okay? It gets to be tricky on these boundary projects as to who services what. Okay. And then the summary at the end. That was a lot of stuff going on with that change order. I kind of butchered it for you. So fire questions away and let's see where it goes. I guess I kind of butchered it for you. I apologize for that.
What part of that do you find the most annoying?
The fact that I butchered it or the fact that
No.
I find the fact that I butchered it the most annoying.
Of all the items.
Of all the items, the water main really bothers me the most. But that was just some miscommunication. The Lakeview Addition, if you remember, and I don't want to make excuses, was pushed, then it was stopped, and then it was pushed, and then it was stopped, and then it was pushed, and then it was stopped. And there were just a couple things that got through both Public Works and our office during that start-stop. And being that this one is on the border of the two systems between Cass Rural and the City of Horace, there's a lot going on Wall Avenue, and there's a lot going on County Road 17, and just a couple things got missed tonight. I'll be honest with you. That's just flat out what it was. So.
Yeah. Well, we kind of knew that was going to happen because of the way this thing got set up, and like you said, I think it was 3 stop and starts just because of at least 3 that I don't remember.
Yeah, and then there was a threat of completely stopping the whole project.
Correct.
So
Yep.
kind of got
No
set up
project
for
is
the
perfect.
first one.
No, but this one went sideways a couple of times, so anyway. I mean, I guess there's money in the contingency to handle the change order.
There is money in the contingency. This does clean everything up. This makes everything operate the way that it should. The pricing that's been provided by the contractor has been vetted by our project manager based on what he's seen, based on the NDDOT unit prices. He said everything is very, very close to what it
Okay.
is, so he said it doesn't feel like there's any real spot where the contractor is getting the yacht out of the deal.
Cause you know, he might get a little wound up if he comes back in with another $100,000
I
change
know.
order, right?
I
Just
know.
saying.
So,
Alright.
Are those, well, it doesn't have any approaches to County 17, so we don't have to worry about that.
Correct.
you are correct.
We're good on Wall Avenue.
Jim, were
Right.
you involved with your project manager on putting together this change order?
I was. He
Okay.
did the bulk of it, as you can see. And part of the reason I butchered it.
I do have a couple of quick questions, and
Okay.
you may or may not be able to answer them
I will
here.
do my best.
On page 5, item 13, there's a lump sum discount adjustment of $20,000. And I'm curious what that is for.
Okay, let me get to page 5. Lump sum discount adjustment.
But it's a positive adjustment.
You are right, but the ended up being a negative on that whole thing.
Can we make sure that that's correct? I think
Yep.
there might be a math error there, or there might not be, it just might need to be in parentheses, but I wanna make sure that 20,000 is going in the right direction.
Yep.
And then furthermore, there is, items 18 and 19, 2 pages down,
Yep.
that are calling for, an 8-inch connect to existing water main, which is a bid price of $500 for one. And then item 19 is a 6-inch connection to existing water main, which is a bid price of $6,300 per one.
Correct.
And I'm questioning if there may be a discrepancy there.
It has to do with the way that the measurement of payment's written on the project. You were well aware of that. So this one, I believe that the 6-inch required capping sleeve, a gate valve, all as one, where the 8-inch wasn't live. The 6-inch was live. so
It was
there's a
live?
more. The
Okay.
6-inch was.
Okay, that just looked like it maybe had an extra 0.
Yeah. But I'll definitely double check that one, but that's what I recall it.
The rest of this looks to be in line. There's a couple things that weren't included at the time of bid where they just threw out some pricing. A couple things that I see some pricing is pretty close, but I'm not gonna nickel and dime anything, but those are 2 fairly large items that I thought we should maybe take a look at.
Yep.
So if we could just check those, I have no issue with this change order other than just confirming that.
Okay.
Okay, so you wanna make a motion to that effect?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to approve change order number 1 with a verification of the amount of $186,255.58 based on the few items that were brought to your attention here
Yep.
tonight.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
Jeff does a second. Alright, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Alright, motion carries. Alright, Brent, let's talk about this
Okay.
city hall.
Okay, I warned Chelsea I'm going to recruit her for some help on this one since she's been working with us quite a bit. And also Keith, he's not here tonight, but Keith has been working with Chelsea and I on this potential remodel of City Hall. What you see before you, we've vetted, or we went through logistically what a remodel of City Hall would look like. Sally, can you put the map up, or the layout? Can you show the layout one?
Yeah, I did upload it to the meeting.
Are you able to find that one, Sally?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I wasn't looking at the screen there, so. But anyways, what we have is quite a bit of change to the overall layout of this building. The functionality of City Hall would change to where the biggest difference flat out is we would not have this room. The council chambers room, we wouldn't have it. We had to be able to find a spot to be able to make adjustments to where we could have staff In this room, what you would see are three offices and a conference room. We had moved the bathroom over to the other side of where our current bathroom is. We'd also have quite a bit of soundproofing of walls, so that way you could work in spaces without getting bothered by each other as much. Also within where you do see some cubicles, there'd be some walls that break up staff or the public from where employers are working. So our overall goal, the intention with this, I know Chelsea had a lot of great ideas of where we could have a full wall versus a cubicle wall, was to knock down sound, give staff dedicated spaces where they're working, have a little bit more room to breathe, have a little bit of a break area. Currently, we do not have a break area for staff at all. So those are some of our focuses there. And then also account for storage within the space too. What this accounts for is really enough room for our current staffing, maybe one additional current approved staffing, and maybe one additional one. That's all it really accounts for space-wise. Where we would have council meetings, that's the other part of this item, would be at the fire hall. I've been working with fire on can we work out logistics of being able to have city council meetings and any other city business related meetings Monday and Tuesday nights. So what we'd be doing is locking up every Monday and Tuesday night for city business or other government entities. So that way a park district, planning commission, city, I believe Stanley Township meets one night a month there. Anybody that's using it for for like government use, public use, awesome. But it gives us some security of being able to know if we need to have a public meeting or anything, we know we'd have Monday and Tuesday nights available for that. We have to have some sense of, or some security of, yep, we know we're going to have space and not be scrambling around trying to find alternate locations whenever we need to meet with the public. Within that conference room, obviously you fit maybe about 10 to a dozen people in that room. So we still have the opportunity to conduct most of the business that we need to handle here at City Hall. What we did after working with Chelsea, Prairie Design did in her work, they've been working with us on their own dime. They have not been, this is all pro bono for the city. There's not a cost tied to the city on this. We solicited bids from 2 different contractors that do quite a bit of this type of work, remodeling. One was Lee Jones brother, or son, Lee Jones and Son. Yep. Sorry. And then the other one was Meridian. Meridian was the low bid. They were very specific within their bid. Their overall base price was $198,400. We did 3 different alternates. One was to replace all the windows at City Hall. A lot of our windows are getting fairly old. Efficiencies really aren't there completely. Some of them could use a replacement more seriously than others. But if you're going to go through a remodel, there's something we wanted to bring up to council for consideration. Alternate 2 is to replace the siding. Go with what they proposed was a stainless steel siding at $20,000. And then alternate 3 was to replace a wood deck by the west door, get that more compliant, there's better compliance.
West door.
The other side.
Over here.
Yeah, replace that. Overall, some of these items, such as that wood deck, replacing that's something I believe we could do separate from this project. I do have concerns of, with this overall price, we could go up to $250,000 before you have to go through a different bidding process. My concern is if we're at almost $200,000 with the base, by the time anything comes up with the building, you get change orders you could get up there. So that's a concern I have. The alternates, we could add the windows in, for example, and then do the siding and the wood deck on the back side there as separate projects. Then we're not getting into a bidding, or we have some wiggle room for if we have to do a change order or anything comes up that was missed or that circumstances impact the construction. So if they get underneath and find, okay, yeah, we need to replace a truss or something, we're capable of doing so. This does not account for furniture or any costs like that. This is just for remodeling the building.
City staff's gonna be able to work during this remodel?
We are working with fire. Fire has indicated that they'd be open to having staff that does not have to interact with the public to work at fire hall. We could bend interstates here. They love us, so there's some other options there. But we'd probably likely go into more of a remote workplace for the time being, where we have, we might have staff scattered about a little bit, but the majority of staff would be either working remotely or they might even have to work out, some might have to work out of the shop area, so.
So if I may add a few things, I'd like to just walk you guys through the plan a little bit. So as far as the office, the different desks, you
there's
have
more
Wendy,
options.
and then the backup receptionist is the new position for permitting. That position would help answer phones when Wendy isn't available. And then next to that, Bobby, the offices, Brent, potentially engineer, and then finance. And then over on the other side, we would have the city planner, and then the 3 inspectors, and then potentially 2 extra desks there. And then Sally over by the break room, and then the file could potentially be a desk as well. So, I mean, you could squeeze 3 more desks in here. We'd have to figure out where those files would go. But just looking at holding us over for the time being, there is some flex there. And then one other thing I wanted to note was just structural side of this. Keith wanted us to have structural sign off on the supports in the crawl space. Structural's timeline was pushed out, so we'll have them out there when they can get out there, but I don't see a lot of it. I mean, we saw pictures that Keith took and it looks pretty decent down there. There's just a couple posts that are twisted that maybe would be replaced, so that would be a change to the cost.
Yep.
And then we'll just have them sign off on that wall that we're removing, which I don't see any issue with that from my standpoint. And then you guys have the bid in front of you or within the files from Meridian. So you can take a look at that breakdown.
I realize here there are a couple other alternates. Alternate 4 is upgrade to full extension undermount soft closed drawers and doors for $1,400. Alternate 5 is to furnish / install duct zoning in conference room for $3,600. Alternate 6 is furnish and install grade 2 locks and exit device in lieu of grade 1. It says deduct of $1,500. And alternate 7 is furnish and install laminate cabinetry in lieu of stained wood. Architect choose from standard laminate selections, deduct of $1,000. So
Yeah, and I definitely do that.
if you're doing, any of those alternates, the ones that I would consider, say, if you were to pull out, would probably be the siding and the deck, and we could do those as separate projects because they're some of the most substantial ones.
I think you could save money on the hardware and the cabinetry, soft close. I'd probably put that on there because otherwise you're gonna have loud doors if people are in the cabins a lot. And the conference room is gonna get really hot if you have 10, 12 people in there.
Okay.
The other thing to note too was the discussion on the use of the building for future, once it's outgrown by city staff. The Public Works would be able to move in and utilize it, is kind of the thought process there.
Yep.
Okay, so which of the alternates would you recommend, Chelsea, just so we go through, so everybody understands where we're at here?
Well, I would do the ductwork and the soft close. I would think you could do the lower grade door hardware and the cabinetry in laminate. That's totally fine. As far as the windows and the siding and the exit, I mean, you know, we could take another. Yeah, there was a couple windows. I think these higher ones are a little bit newer.
Mm-hmm.
It's just if you want them all to match, it might save you $1,000 to save those ones. But you know, like these ones are pretty old. They're original. It's sure. I don't know. It's
At some point, they'll have to be.
yeah.
I think if you're going to
Just-
do the windows, it makes sense just do them all at the same time, so you have
Yeah.
consistency.
And that's when you put the siding on, at the same time you redo the windows.
And for the siding though, we could do that as a separate
Mhm.
project, because like I said, you get closer to that 250,000 threshold, and it makes it more where we should have bid a different way, so. and-
Can you do the windows and the siding like another time? Or are those something that you feel we need to do?
I would have to defer Chelsea on that one, and.
You
that's
could
really
easily,
good.
yeah, they just have to pull off the casing around the window,
Yeah.
and then they'll pull it out from outside. So, that's not a big deal. There's really not a lot of windows in here.
Yeah.
You know, you can see it's $8,000 to replace the windows to fiberglass, which are a nice window. But, that could easily be done with the siding.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll still replace the casing around them. Just so it all looks coordinating with the doors and everything.
Yeah, you'd probably replace that to be consistent, so.
But yeah, I don't see any issue personally with leaving the windows. It'd be nice to do them, but
I mean, how much does the windows and siding total?
8,100 is what they quoted for windows, and siding is 20,000. Like I said, for siding, we could do the windows and then do the siding as a separate project. You know, next spring we could do the siding.
This
That's-
building is gonna be utilized for the plan, as I understand it, public work at a later date, correct?
They would be able to use this facility later.
and I must say, I was very surprised at how much space came about in the floor plan.
The siding is all brand new, or is it just,
The siding that's on it now is old.
It's older. It's
You can see
there's
they
quite a
like-
few damages
they've
on
got
it.
some-
what I'm
weird
asking is
seams
the
on the
siding that's
backside.
bid is to replace everything,
Yes.
Yeah.
make it look nice?
Yes.
Get rid of this staining on
Yep.
the outside here?
Yep, and repair get new siding, because we have quite a few spots where it's damaged.
Yeah, they've got some.
Are they also gonna put a
good,
new thermal
seams in the
barrier?
back.
Did they include thermal barrier?
Mm, Thermal barrier, you mean like wrap?
Tyvek.
Tyvek?
Yep.
Yeah,
Isn't
weather
that
barrier,
just-
they,
Didn't they do always?
that I'm not really sure. I don't know what it looks like under there.
I don't either. So it might be worth asking to see if that's something that they've included.
Isn't it standard that you do the tieback
Rewrap it.
with siding?
I would love to say that that's a standard, but no.
No?
This was done a while back. I still think though.
No,
that
but
the-
I mean, in this bid right here, that should come with it automatically, don't you think?
They went to a lot of detail to put this bid together, and if it's not on there, I'm gonna say it's probably not included.
Yeah.
Based on.
Hard to say. I don't know
know.
that it's a big cost really to
It
put
shouldn't be,
some
but-
new tieback on. Tieback is not very expensive.
But that would be when you're doing the siding.
Yeah, they'll
So-
take a look at it, and, I mean, I think we just, I guess, opinion then after this conversation would just be to skip the windows and the siding and the platform if Keith allows us to skip the platform.
Well,
We might
we'll,
get into
we'll
a
still,
rail.
we'll still need to address those, and my suggestion is,
But that would mean
if you would
it's
skip them out of
spring.
this, we would come back, we'd bid those out separately and do those as a separate project.
Don't you think that you could get a better price if you do it all now? I mean, wouldn't we pay more to have it done as a separate project?
It's hard to say on that one. And
They
you
still
could-
gotta get a dual different sub, it's different subs and,
Yeah.
I mean, if we're doing just siding and windows, we can just call those subs directly or those suppliers directly and not go through a contractor.
And I can
save
tell you
contract-
that
So it might actually save money on contractor price.
Possibly, but the lead time I know for siding has been ridiculous, cause I'm looking at redoing my house, and I know people in this industry, and it's a couple months out,
Yeah.
so.
Well, that's another point too, is we're not gonna start anything until everything, all the materials have been,
Ready.
ready to go. We'll get in and get out as quick as we can, so that,
Cause they're gonna be displaced.
yeah.
Yeah. The siding can be done after, staff is back in, because that doesn't impact
Yeah.
us being in the building or not. But it can be done either way. It's just that if you do that, if you add siding in, for example, it just makes it to where if we have other change orders, it's a little more difficult to work with. But
Yeah, I mean, these fiberglass windows too are probably, you could maybe get vinyl for quite a bit less. I always just I don't expect that stuff, usually.
Like I said, I'm kind of in the impression we could just wait with the windows and the siding until next spring or whenever, and kind of do that as a separate project. So we make sure that we've got enough leeway here to, if we do run into something with a change order, that we're not stuck.
Yeah, I would just do the, exit stair as a, potential on what Keith is gonna say, cause he was.
yeah,
Yeah.
What are you thinking? It was deep.
I am, I'm looking at this bid, I'm looking at alternates, I'm looking at all of it, and then I'm trying to weigh the age of this building that I don't know off the top of my head. Does anyone know?
Well, when I saw
age
the
of this
pictures of the
building?
crawl space, it looked like it was actually in pretty decent shape.
So I'm looking, how old is the building, how old are the systems?
It was probably built in the mid-90s, if I remember right.
Okay.
Attached to the school.
Yeah, cause the school had it brand new, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
So this
and
was
I-
a pod at one point?
Yeah,
Yeah.
94 probably.
This was like
93.
5th grade.
Yeah. I think I saw it right
All
over
right.
there.
And then I'm looking at what we're spending to improve this space, and I'm looking at, big picture, what's the space gonna be used for in the future? How many years are we gonna need the space? Those types of things, and I'm just trying to take it all in
Yeah.
at once. And my impression was that we were going to do a simple get us by something here, but if there's going to be future use, and it makes sense to have Public Works in here and make this a professional space, because let's face it, it really doesn't look like that right now. It's a double wide, okay? Is it worth spending this money to get the long-term investment out of it? Those are the questions I'm asking myself. I'm just thinking out loud.
Well, for sure, we're gonna be in here for a couple years.
I know that.
And like you
Yep.
said, then Public Works is gonna have it for, you know,
Until you're
basically-
ready to entertain the facility for public works, you know.
So spending this money now may save us money in the long run, or be able to extend
extend the longevity of this.
the longevity
Yep.
of this.
Odds are, like, for example, public works, for example, it makes it to where you could phase public works transitioning into like a new facility over a period of time easier. So for public works, you know, one idea come to my head would be when we have a spot to put them, they go and get another shed, for example, and maybe you start getting the facility for them, like a shed or outbuilding, or slowly work your way to where then by the time you get to an office area, you already have some structures there. That's just an idea. I'm not saying that it's the say all one way to go, but a way to use space wisely.
Have we looked at, just out of curiosity, because this is $200,000 plus, what the cost of a pre-manufactured building with the similar dimensions would be?
Where would we put it?
Here?
Like dipped in?
I got a 5-gallon gas can on the man.
I think you're gonna be probably spending double.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, to get something moved in.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because I
you know
know
what?
there's places that, I mean, for this amount of money, yes, you may be spending double, but I know some people that recently purchased a pre-manufactured home for this same money that's pretty damn fancy. And it's nice, I know at least same square footage, similar, with a garage and everything else, and I'm kinda going, I don't know. And I'm not questioning any of the work that's been done. This is phenomenal. This bid is broken out wonderfully. The plan is really ideal. I like the use of space. I think that it's a lot better setup than what it is now. I'm just questioning if we've looked at all those options, that's all.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, you know, there's probably, my guess, like 25% in contractor fees here.
Yeah.
You know, it's not cheap to do anything, you know that, we
I
all
do.
know that, everything is skyrocketing. I am working with this contractor on another job that they were the low bidder on. So, you know, that job was super messy and, you know, a little bit different. There was more ads and stuff on that one. I feel like we, you know, have done our due diligence to make sure everything, the information is there. Mechanical and electrical are big portions of this, so did you see any of them come out and take a look at stuff?
For Meridian, not as much. For this one, a little bit. Lee Jones had quite a few contractors, but they didn't have all their. They said their bid could fluctuate based on how their subs would say, oh, it would be this much or not. My understanding, talking with Keith, is some of the subs are probably the same subs that Meridian has versus Lee Jones.
Yeah.
So, but Lee Jones, their bid was about 50,000 higher than what Meridian was. So,
But I can see if we do this now, we probably, you know, I'm just guessing, but let's say it's 7-8 years before whatever, either get too many people or whatever, you know, fill this space. We've did our due diligence enough so that we can be able to keep it that long. I don't know if putting in a brand new building, because I think it'll be more expensive based upon what I've seen as far as construction costs go.
It could be,
You know, so that's why we went down this path. Is it optimum? No, but this is gonna help. This facilitates what we're gonna be needing to do because our alternates are pretty minimal at this point. And maybe we can get even some longer lifespan out of this building, you know, if we do some stuff now. You know, maybe the public works folks can stay in here for 10 years. I don't know. We just gotta forecast at least if we can cover this for 7 years right now. I think we'd be fairly good, and if we get some more out of it, fantastic.
The other thing to consider is the cost of leasing is very high. I mean, I'd have to calculate it, but you're talking $20 a square foot times.
Is this building paid for? In full?
Many
I would hope
times.
so, but.
Many
yeah.
times.
I don't have those numbers in front of
Yeah.
me, so I'm asking, I mean,
Yeah, the city does own this building. Was it 2 years ago? We put 3 years ago. We put a new roof on it, new shingles, all that, and
What'd
did
you-
some
what'd you
repairs.
come
4,000 square feet is about $80,000 a year for leasing. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the other option to that transition space, is leasing. And this is gonna be paid for in 3 years of us moving to somebody else's property, you know. Plus, they don't always cover the full cost to fit that space up for you. You have to, you know, there's no assisting out here. That'd basically be the other option to transition. So, and that may, you know, who knows what the path will lead. But the fact that Public Works can use this, I think, and those numbers, and, you know, I think, I feel comfortable with it. Obviously, you know,
Like
that's a
leasing-
big number.
You're
It's-
saying leasing out the building?
No, just doing the project. You know, I feel with those numbers, obviously, it's a lot to swallow.
What
but-
she's saying is if we had to go lease space for all the folks and have them there for 3
Well,
months. or more,
yeah,
It would be.
what is our funding source for this, Brian?
Your funding source would be the your public facilities fund that we have. So we have admin fee that is charged for like new developments, for example. All different times we have special assessment projects that are bonded for. We have 5% admin fee. That's funded through. If you look at city's financials, it'll say public facilities. That's where it would come from, and that would also be used to help fund like a new city hall.
Is this in the current budget, or would this be an amendment?
We would have to account for doing an amendment. We really have that as a project, capital project fund, so I would be asking our new finance director the best way to account for this one. But that fund is not budgeted per se, it's treated more like a reserve type fund. So I don't think you'd have to do an amendment necessarily, but I would verify that when we go down that process.
I do have a question here. I did not notice anything in here for any kind of data or networking,
Okay.
setting any of that up in the building.
That's actually under the electrical.
Is
They
it?
have, yeah, on the actual Meridian page, they have, 1 cable wireless access point, rough-in and cabling, and then 15 2-cable phone data, rough-in and cabling, and there's also a server room.
Yeah.
And what they looked at is similar to what we already have, probably.
Do you need another couple weeks to look at all of it?
What? Unless there's,
Is it expensive for a building of this nature? Yes, it is. Is it trying to find a way to maximize the space, get us by until we could tackle a new facility flat out? Yeah, it would get us by for a few years. So it gives us time where we could really go through a engagement process with the public for like a new city hall. It gives us time for our public facilities fund to build a little bit more or grow a little bit more. It gives us time to have like a new city hall, for example, built. Because those aren't an overnight construction project. That's going to be a year and a half long project, most likely. Look at the schools, how long it takes to build the schools. No, we're not talking a building like that. We're not even talking a building for that. But does it get us by? Yeah, it does. Is it expensive? Yeah. I was talking with Chelsea here last week when we first got these bids in, and going, holy cow, this is about 50 to 100 grand more than what I was thinking. But I'm not in trade. I don't know costs to do that type of work either. So was there a sticker shock even for myself? Yeah, there was. If you need to have a little bit of time to think about it, don't think you're gonna break anybody's hearts at staff level to make sure if there's other ways to do it. I know that we've been through this layout many times. Staff met on this one quite a few times. I know Chelsea and we worked with this. Naomi, we worked with you on that layout too. And got all different, different perspectives, what works, what doesn't. Then we sat on it for a little bit to, okay, let's come back to this a few weeks later to make sure this layout makes sense. And we did fine tuning, and this has been about, I'd say about 3-month process or better. Looking at Chelsea. Oh, it's been talked about a lot longer, but really hashing out the layouts, design, the floor plans, everything.
Well, I mean,
So,
you talk about longevity of the building. I mean, there are homes that are way older than this building that get remodeled. I mean, my home would be one of them, and if it's something that, if, let's say, Public Works wasn't to stay in here for 10, 15 years, whatever the case is, it would have the potential to be leased out, and you could have some income there too.
there's a possibility.
I'm just thinking long term, like way down the road, because I do know that the staff are important to me too, and they are really struggling in this little tiny space. And I do want them to have good working conditions. I don't want them to be on top of each other. I want them to have good working relationships. I want things to flow smooth. I mean, I don't think most people go to work without a break room. I mean, that's sad that they can't even go and like disconnect from their desk without,
Having to go in their car.
yeah, and that's, I think that's just kind of, it's not okay. If I'm looking at a place where I would want to work, I would be like, what in the world? Just thinking of the longevity of the building. I know, Sarah, you're, concerned about the age of the building and those kinds of things, but I think that there are solutions down the road too that we could utilize the building for to generate some income for the city as well. And I just think, in my opinion, it's a good idea to get these people a good working environment. I am a little shocked at the sticker price as well, but I mean, they're giving us their all, and they're trying to make things work, and I do want it to be a better place, so that's kind of where I stand on it. I don't know if there's any way we can cut costs at all, just a little bit here, just looking at some of it. I don't know, because like Brenton said, it's not my trade either.
Yeah, the finishes are very, I picked originally, I'll just walk you through, obviously it's small, we have carpet, we have some vinyl, and we have, in the bathrooms, I put this Wilson Art wet wall product, so it's not like tiled walls in there. We ran the vinyl plank in there, and we put the wet wall on there. I picked out some entry-level carpet tiles, and then I did a little bit nicer carpet tile in the conference room. I believe we have an accent paint color in there, but otherwise everything's painted. We did upgrade to insulate all the walls. So insulation really isn't too much money, and I think that's important to make sure that we do that right the first time.
Yep.
The cabinetry was just an entry-level cabinet from Menards. They can save us some money doing laminate, so that's great. So I mean, without going out and getting more bids, which doesn't probably necessarily make sense, in my opinion. I think, if we're looking at this plan, I think we're kind of sitting where we can be in numbers. As far as the furniture goes, we're able to reuse pretty much all the desks that are in there. So there's going to be a few minor pieces needed to get everybody desks, but they're able to reuse everything and match the new stuff to the old stuff. We'll have to buy the conference table and.
For furniture, they did not have a bid for us yet. for how much it would cost. We're asking for a bid from the same company that did our upfit previously,
Who's that?
Christensen's.
Christensen's?
Yep. They're very reputable. They were by far the lowest bidder last time we did this. But yeah, we will have some items like Chelsea mentioned, conference table. We'll have a couple desks and different things like that, chairs, different items that we'd have to account for. And once we have that information, we come back to council with that. To give you an idea, if you want to get a comparison, if I remember correctly, we were around 35,000 for our outfit that we currently have. Cubicles, desks, things like that. So office furniture is not cheap either. But
And I
we
don't
bring that.
think we're even like, it doesn't seem like we're like half of that stuff.
Yeah,
but
it's different though, because we're talking a conference
the
table
conference table
versus
stuff, yeah.
a lot of our cost at our what we have right now where that staff works. A lot of cost was spent for cubicles, for the cubicle walls, and this setup we're not looking at as heavy on the cubicle side.
Yeah, and we'll reuse pretty much all those walls in here.
I guess where I'm sitting on this right now is I'm okay with what we've got here. I would say that we just remove alternates 1, 2, and 3 from this. I'm okay with the rest of it.
So you don't wanna do windows?
I wanna wait with that.
and siding?
The only concern I have about that is that, in the base bid, they've listed that they're actually demolishing a part of the vinyl siding on the east side of the building. And I don't want that to be left in an unfinished state if we choose not to do the siding. So we need to make sure that that's somehow incorporated under demolition.
Right. The only reason I want to wait with it is because if we do have a change order that comes in that puts us over the magic numbers, then we're going to have to scramble around a little bit.
Would you like us to seek out a bid separate for 1, 2, and 3? We could do that as a separate one. It's packaged there enough to where you probably still get decent pricing.
I'd say that's probably a.
We could come back to council, separates it.
Yeah.
That does free up the way, you know, it gives some wiggle room for, like I said, if there's change orders. I want to make
That's
sure
what I
that
want
if
to
you
make sure that
have.
we've got that wiggle room and we're not constricted, because otherwise we're just going to waste more time. We don't need to do that if we think about this up front a little bit more.
And there may be a possibility, it looks like we've got seamless steel bid in alternate 2. Could we go to vinyl?
Box steel.
A heavier grade vinyl?
Box steel, it's cheaper.
Does it say seamless?
Yeah, it says seamless steel.
Okay.
So there may be
Yeah.
an opportunity for some cost savings, and honestly, ability to patch a lot easier if you do have any type of storm damage or things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you do what kind of siding?
If you put a heavier vinyl or something like that.
Yeah.
So on the east side, that's probably that door
That's right.
Yeah.
where that they're filling in,
Yeah.
so.
And then
But-
same thing with those windows, I mean, you maybe get something different. I don't know, that looks to be about right. They have that Window World commercial on TV, you get 10 of them for about $7,000 or something, and this is 8,100, so I'm not, looking at a big difference there. I'm just looking at big dollar items that could potentially change. Undermount soft close, I think, is a requirement. You're gonna drive yourselves nuts with headaches, with doors slamming. Duck zoning in the conference room, kind of common sense.
I was gonna say, I just had a window, all new windows in my house. It's advertising.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, there's always, as you know.
Okay.
But that's what, Sarah, would you be okay if we did 1, 2, and 3 as a separate item where we went out and bid and got that separate?
Yeah, I'd like to just look at I'd like to see it all done at or around the same time, but at the same token, I think there's an opportunity for some cost savings potentially with that siding. And like you said, if it's something that comes up down the road and we have some other things we want to consider that maybe take precedence, that's great.
there's nothing that bugs me more than driving up to this building and seeing this staining on the siding.
No.
It looks unprofessional.
Don't get me
It's
wrong,
crap,
I-
and I think we can do better as a
Yeah.
city.
I want it changed too, but I want to make sure that we do this right, so we don't box
Yeah.
ourselves in on anything here.
Yeah.
So,
I'm having a little bit of sticker shock
Yeah.
for a remodel of a double wide trailer, you know, I just am like, can we do I don't know, the contractor in me is looking at this and going, can I do a post frame
Well,
building
I
and
mean-
frame this all out brand new and do it for less? I don't know, you know.
Do you
Those
wanna
are-
table it and then maybe look?
No,
I'd
because
rather not.
these poor people have been working in these conditions,
Yep.
and it's to the point where we're dealing with an unprecedented amount of growth in the city. We need to do something.
correct,
I
and that's
get
why,
it.
it's the internal stuff I wanna get fixed. That external, I get it, but we gotta get this
And the price of
internal.
everything, I mean, if this came to our office for us to just draw the plans of, we'd probably be close to $10,000 just our fees.
Yeah.
So if you think about everything that goes into that, I mean, to get to 200,000 is super easy, and when we price our fees as an architecture firm, we have to talk it over. There's no look at a guideline and this is how much, you have to look at all. And it's like we're talking about this stuff and it's jumped so much lately. And just the amount of work that goes into everything, I think just every year gets to be more and more. And I personally think the 200,000, I mean, I wasn't really surprised. Everything costs so much money. It's crazy.
Yeah, plus, again, just for the staff, we need to get this taken care of. I don't think tabling it's gonna make any difference at this point. We just need to figure out, if we're gonna do, what we're gonna do with the alternates that are on here. And like I said, I still think 1, 2, and 3 can be pushed. We can get those other ones done.
There's a lot of work going on here. I mean, have we considered the fact that there's a good possibility they're not gonna be able to be in this building for extended periods of time during some of this work going on?
We expect this to be 2 or 3 months roughly, about 2 to 3 is what we're anticipating.
That's the disruption.
And we
This
need
is
to have
a
a conversation with
huge
Meridian
disruption,
because
especially when they do
I think we should be able to
HVAC
get
and
done
plumbing.
quicker than that, like 2 months tops.
Yeah, but that's,
And they're probably wanting to get in and out, you know?
yeah,
So,
yes, it is quite a disruption. That's
Huge.
it. Yeah,
The plumbing and HVAC alone.
Yep.
I mean, the electrical, they got a $42,000 allowance and we're not even getting new panels.
and that's also why we're asking we don't want them to start until they basically have everything on hand, so then we only have delays of, oh, we're waiting for this one part, and we're,
Yeah.
takes it
cost
even
of
longer.
commercial stuff is it's a different animal than residential.
I realize this. I was
Yeah.
in this industry for many, many
Yeah.
years and I'm very well aware of that. I'm just,
What's your, I mean, what,
I'm struggling. This is just like, it's a double wide trailer for Christ's sake.
Yeah, but it's one we gotta modify up a little bit to make it last here, because we don't have a lot of options.
Well, and for me, it's, when you look at, okay, so there's the 5 strip mall. That's where, maybe that's the only place in town pretty much that we could go. We could go there and we could spend $80,000 a year, 5-year lease, you're up at 400,000. I mean, you can slice there's lots of ways to skin the cat, but it's still gonna cost you a lot of money.
I know. The only, I guess, glory that I have to all this is the fact that there will be extended use on this building over the course of several years for public works, and so I
Yeah.
guess it makes sense to do something like that.
well,
It's just too bad that we can't put this money into a future project, That's kind of what I'm looking at, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, I think we all thought that too, because this would have gone a lot, could have been a nice down payment on a new place, but
Yep.
we're here now, and we gotta make sure our staff gets accommodated. Because I don't want them sitting on each other's laps either, that's ridiculous, so we need to get on with it.
Like you said too, Sarah, I mean, Public Works, if they can get 10 years out of it,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, that
That's
does.
10 years of zero, like not paying somebody else a lease or,
We don't have to build them another facility either right away, then we
Yeah.
can
True,
can
so there are
utilize
cost
this.
savings in the long run.
If it wasn't for Public Works being able to move in here, I would be questioning it higher, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
Yep.
100%.
Are they going to get 10 years out of it? We don't know for sure. Will they get time out
Why
of this?
wouldn't they? I don't understand.
That's why I'm
why
just
you
saying,
guys
we don't know
keep
for
saying
sure.
that. Like,
'Cause
it's
we don't-
still a building
We don't,
that's,
I don't know the state of the building. I can't tell you. Is it going to be 10 years? Is it going to be 8 years? Or is it going to be 15?
Like,
We don't know the demands of
outgrowing
the
it.
city. Yeah,
Yeah.
do they outgrow it? Or is it something that, I can't answer that right
like,
now.
you're not talking about structure, sound.
No, it's more,
Right.
fill, we can fill this place.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, you
Yeah.
can lease it out to somebody else, sell it, you know, get some money back.
Or 8 to 10 years, we don't know how
Yeah,
many
it's
staff
fine.
are gonna be on board here. The city's gonna grow.
Yeah. So, I'm just being as upfront as I can about it is, how would this be used in 10 years from now? I don't know. I can't tell you how it would be, because I don't know, would Public Works outgrow a space like this? Right now, we have 3 people, we're trying to hire a 4th one. Well, and then we have a part-time guy, so we've got 5. Could be more, you know, I don't know what the staffing is going to be for Public Works City in 10 years. That's why I say that, and I'm trying to be just really honest. This is where
We have no idea.
it'd be at. Yeah.
Well, clearly there was a lot of thought put into the layout
Yeah.
and the amount of offices and reasonable size spaces, because I don't see anything here that's absolutely ridiculous or astronomical. I see some cost saving measures that have been put into place here, especially when it comes to materials. Chelsea, thank you so much for getting rid of the white vinyl base. I really want to throw up every time I see that and the carpeting. So that helps a lot. I guess with that being said, there's some opportunity here, and I would like to see a longer term use out of this investment.
Yes, I would too. I guess, I mean, we do need to think about the staff that are working here too. They can't, in my mind, you just can't continue to.
Hey, I work out of my truck. I don't have a break room either. I use porta john for a bathroom every day. I don't even get indoor plumbing, so I'm kind of the wrong
Different
person.
ball game,
I'm
Sarah.
kind of the
Come
wrong
on.
person
I mean,
to talk
we-
to. Right?
Sarah, I know how you feel.
Yeah. Jeff, where are you coming down on this? You've been pretty quiet over there
I
in the
agree
corner.
with you. Options, or excuse me, alternates 1, 2, and 3. I think my biggest concern is 3 right now, but I would say I would hold off on those. Other than that, the only thing I noticed, like I said, just the electrical. You'd have just rough-ins for the data and cabling. Nothing is actually set up there yet, but it'll be part of the cost to set up all the phones and stuff like that for the building.
I would actually love to see this little 5x5 wood deck in alternate 3 be used as a project for the local high school or middle school. I think that we don't have enough trades in there, and I know that Beth Slutty, when she spoke to us, talked about a internship program or something like
Yeah.
that. I mean, what a fabulous opportunity for the city to save some money and our kids to learn something.
Yeah.
You know, that might be something that could be considered. Even any of these alternates could be considered as something like that, where we go purchase our own materials and then do some sort of a building trade apprenticeship for simple scopes of work, you know, a small deck. Obviously, I wouldn't have kids putting electrical or HVAC systems in, but something like this I think would be a fair option.
Well, the kids do build houses, like in Fargo.
Some of
And
them
they
do.
side them.
They build half that.
That kind of stuff, so I mean, that's not out of the realm of possibility. It's just the partnership, and then where do they build it and transport and all that kind of jazz, but yeah, agreed. All right, so what do you guys want to do? Otherwise, we're gonna be here till 10 o'clock tonight, so let's pick an idea and let's move with it. I think we talked about this enough, so.
I mean, I think we just scrap the alternate 1 through 3.
Okay. We can scrap them or we can put them on an alternate, what I'll call, we can have those bids separately, or we can talk about them a little bit more, but I do not believe they have to be done right away, so.
We would need to do something with the 5x5 deck on the west door. However, Sarah had a great idea about the
Right. So we can talk about that.
So we could bring that with the windows and the siding as another project.
Correct.
And it might be projects or project.
Whatever, but it'll be outside of this, what we're doing right now, so. All right, so do you want to make a motion with that?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the city hall, what am I saying?
Remodel.
Remodel, with scrapping alternative 1 through 3 for a later date, possibly.
3 if Keith allows us to hold off on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's the boss.
Yep, we'll, all right, so Naomi made an action item here, made a motion, so gotta get a second.
Before we do a second, did you wanna talk about alternate 7 at all? Isn't that what Chelsea said? Were you gonna?
Oh, the cabinetry, yeah, we'll
Just
go,
some money on that?
yeah, we'll just scrap alternates 1 through 3, 3 if Keith allows it, and then we'll go for those other 4 alternates.
Yep.
Okay.
So you'll keep alternate 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
Okay. Really quick question I have too would be, before Naomi finishes her motion, would be, if you want to approve it based on just what you see for the bid, or do you want us to come back to you anytime there's a change order? Or do you want to approve it for a amount up to, so then we can handle some change orders without having to go council?
So have the change order, change up to 250?
So do you say,
240, or what
do
do you
you
wanna
say
do?
up to a certain amount, like 220, 230, 250, whatever, so we're not coming back to you guys? Or do you want us to come back to you for all the different change orders? I'm fine either way. So,
Right?
yeah, you'd be right around 220.
I didn't hear that one.
10% would be about 220.
It's a fudge factor.
Yep.
Like I said, I'm more than happy to have a special meeting if you'd like. but I
Not
know-
really, no, because some of this stuff's gonna be nickel and dime stuff to be
Yeah.
handled.
Yep.
I actually have no problem going to 225, the halfway then between 200,000 and 250. Get over that and then we're starting to talk, but otherwise I don't see any issues with that.
Yep. That's up to you guys. I just want to throw it up there. Like I said, if you want to have special meetings to approve change orders, I'm more than happy to do that. If you want to have it up to a certain amount so we don't have to bug you, I'm fine with that too.
Yeah, my guess is it would be in structural, in the columns down in the crawl space, or in mechanical and electrical.
Yeah. Do you want to add
Yeah.
that on to your,
Sure.
how high do you want to go?
220,
220, 225?
220.
You said 220, all right.
That's fine with me.
Can I get 225?
So I was going for it, but I didn't want to do the auctioneer bit too long, you know, we've been here a while already.
Just email me a copy of them.
All right.
That's it, so.
If we get to a point where we're close to that 220 or something, if we do have change orders that rack up, that's something council can have discussion on too of, okay, yeah, give us some more authority, or say, nope, we want you guys to keep on coming back to us, so. yeah.
All right, so Naomi has made a motion, go ahead with this thing, minus 1, 2, and 3 on the alternate, and we go up to 220 for you guys to make decisions. That's the motion that's on the table. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, Jeff does a second, and being we are spending money, we're gonna walk the board. Sarah,
Yeah.
Naomi,
Yeah.
Chelsea,
Yes.
Yes.
Jeff, all right.
There we go.
Need
Okay.
another one, meeting we have an ordinance that we have to meet here.
We'll just talk to the Secretary of State and have a temporary residence at Fire Hall.
Okay.
Yeah. So on the meeting location logistics, I'm not asking for action on this tonight. I'll just give you a very quick summary. I've already talked back or touch base on it briefly with you. Working with fire, Steve from the fire department about amending their rental agreement. What we'd be doing is, in this proposed amendment to their agreement, is that we would rent the fire hall every Monday and Tuesday. until we
For
don't
as
need
long as it takes.
Yeah. While we were structuring,
We would rent it
we would be renting the
for
fire
a
hall.
cost.
Yep.
Do we know what that is?
Where we're at in the ballpark would be, let me find here. we were talking through was the cost would be prorated for the rest of this year, 10,000, whatever the prorate is. So based on whenever we need to go in there, if we don't need to go in there this year, we don't go in there. For 2022 calendar year, it'd be 13,000. 2023, it'd be 15. And then we would say for 2024, projected cost between 15 and 17. We are going back and forth still, fine tuning that.
Yeah, we
the
are.
logistics of it. Where they're getting that cost is basically the cost of renting the fire hall 2 nights a week. Like I said, what that does.
Is it actually rented?
Yeah, it would be used at least half the time, if not more, because you'd have planning commission 2 nights, council 2 nights, so you would have at least half. What that does is it gives you.
If it wasn't us,
Oh,
how many people rent the joint Monday and Tuesday night?
I understand, and I can bring that back with them.
So I would like to
So-
bring up, we've had a lot of special sessions. What happens then?
That's why we would have the stability of knowing we have every Monday and Tuesday, to where if we have to have a special meeting, or if we have to have a public meeting of any sort, whatever, we know Monday and Tuesdays are our nights for city business. So that's the advantage of doing it that way, is you lock in every Monday and
If it's
Tuesday.
an emergency deal where we have to do it, we'll figure out something, but I mean, for
Yeah.
the most
Do
part.
these meetings have to be held in Horace?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm just asking.
And unfortunately, there aren't very many locations.
I
So
know, we
that's,
don't have that
we don't
many
have very
locations
many.
in Horace, which is
Another
why I'm
location would be like, for example, the Horse Lutheran Church, but you typically don't want to have meetings of our nature at the church. That
Well,
could
does
be
the
an issue.
school, want to help out, and maybe we could rent a conference room there for
We
very
could,
little
and
time?
that's why I'm not asking for action on this, because we're talking with fire. Fire is also willing to help us out logistics wise during the transition of remodel,
Because they have
but we
conference
could talk
rooms at
with
the
school. Yep.
But they also have
So-
stuff going on at the
Yeah,
schools on a nightly
but
basis.
public aren't
right?
going into conference rooms. Public
Yeah.
might be in a basketball game or something, but they have conference
Yep.
rooms, and I think if they want a partnership, they could look at that too.
Yep.
Yeah, I
So
think it'd be good to have a second option.
we can look at the other one, like I said, so I'm not asking for action from council right now. I'm letting you know that we have options.
They want to charge us for.
Yeah, let's look into the school, talking with them about little to no cost for that.
I think most places are going to be asking for a cost. So just letting you know, I know
We
that
can
when
ask
we.
the school.
I know when we occurred for the mediation for annexation, that was a reduced rate, and it was around 100, 150, something like that, for that
Well,
session.
How much land do we have here? I think we could just ship in another container.
Okay, let's get back to it here.
Yeah.
Focus.
I'll loan you a piece of land for a short period of time.
You're a heck of a guy, Russ, we'll keep that in mind.
We do have a public works building back here too, right?
We tried that.
We have
Yeah,
tried
we
it.
have
I will make it work if that's what you guys want to do. Acoustics are not the greatest. Temperature control is okay, but if you have to open the big door, it's not the greatest.
Yeah. No, we've
We
done
can
that.
wear our snow boots.
Yeah.
We've done that trick before.
If we have a snowstorm, it's going to be special.
Okay,
But
all
we
right.
can make it work. So
We've talked-
anyways, we are
got
looking
some
at
Let's
options.
talk a little bit more about them.
Yes.
Let's move along.
So we are working through that with fire. That just gives you an idea where the conversations are and where we came up with that rate. And talking with each other was cost of renting it 2 nights a week. So, but it locks it into where we could use it for any needs that we have.
Okay, all right. Well, you make a decision on that.
Nope.
tonight, just to give you guys an idea. We'll talk, but again, I know everybody's gonna want their handout on this when we go looking,
Nothing's
so.
free, except for
Nothing's
my-
gonna be free, so
Except for
don't.
my fees on this job.
Yeah, you got that going for you. Jim, let's move to 18 before this gets any longer.
All right, bids were open last Thursday for lift station SA-13, which is Horseshoe Bend. We received 3 bids, CC Steel, Dakota Underground and Celine Brothers. There was a rather large discrepancy between the low bid and the other two, 750,000 plus or minus to 933 plus or minus. So I reached out on Friday to CC Steel just to ask them if they wanted to keep their bid or if they wanted to withdraw their bid, and they said they wanted to look at it some more. I said I could take it off the agenda for tonight, but he said he'd know more. There is some concern with the potential for a sand vein up there, and they're kind of on the edge if they want to take it on for that price or not. So I will have an update in 2 weeks with a recommendation after they look through the documentation that they had when they prepared their bids. Connection to Cass Rural started in vigor last Friday. There was a water shutoff in the afternoon. That was the connection of the main line outside of the tower in preparation for the new transmission line from Cass Rural. So what they did was they put in basically a system of, I don't know what to call it. It's basically it's a U shape. Actually looks like a D, which has got valves on it that we can isolate. So when the time comes to become Cass Rural, turn 2 valves, only Cass Rural water is going into the tower, only Cass Rural water is coming out. Or we can use that as a blend point if we would so choose to blend in the future, but right now it's not looking like we're gonna be able to blend just due to some water quality issues. So they did work today until about noon, until their excavation got a little too wet for them in the rain, but they're working on putting the casing pipe under County Road 17 on Center Avenue. So Center Avenue right now is very busy. There's a lot of equipment around there. So they'll pick up tomorrow, put the casing under County Road 17, do their connection, and work their way out of town. They'll start at 17 and then work their way east to Freed Park Alley, north, west, east along Ball Avenue, and then up 63rd to our meter pit location at 82nd Avenue. So they're pushing on with that. KPH continues to work on the water replacement project. They're working the lining of Willow Center and Southwood was to be complete today. I didn't get an update at the end of the day if the rain slowed them down any. Typically it doesn't on the lining because they're just installing a liner and baking the liner to get it hard so the resin heats up, and then reestablishing the services. So they should be done either today or tomorrow. So that part of it's done. KPH is then putting together, backfilling those bore pits and getting it all put back together. Plan was to start on Thuy Court tomorrow morning and work their way north on Thuy, west on Mickey Mouse in the older part of town. And the rain set them back a little bit on that today. I'm still thinking they're going to want to start tomorrow. So those are the 3 big projects that you don't have a summary sheet for. I do have a summary sheet here for Terra Gardens 3rd edition. You can read them. Nothing really out of the ordinary on that one. The underground should be complete by the middle of the week. Then they'll move on to subgrade prep. Main line of services are 95% complete. Storm sewers 40% complete. They did work last weekend, so they've gotten quite a bit more of that done. Horace proper, we went through that. Connection to Casper Road, we went through that. Southdale Farms 3rd edition. They paved the first run of Christensen Boulevard, which is concrete pavement on the north side on Saturday.
Oh my.
The second side is scheduled for Saturday, this coming Saturday.
This coming Saturday?
Yep.
I have a date.
And the curb and gutter was completed last week. Paving is scheduled for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week, provided today didn't set anything back or didn't ruin the subgrade up there. So they're progressing on that one. The Lakeview edition continues. They're done with the underground. They set the last lift station last week. And now they're going to be coming. This week is kind of an off week for that one as they concentrate on Southdale Farms 3rd edition. And they'll be back in next week to start the road project and the road work on that project. So those are the.
Russ, what do you got?
Metrocog meeting, talked with April Derrick from Fargo. Brenda Derrick, I'm sorry. Brenda
Brett,
Derrick.
you're thinking of the other one prior.
You got 2 of them
Yeah.
right.
Yes, and
Half each.
Jason Benson.
Yep.
And, you know, originally there was talk that we'd have a gravel to 52nd into this year.
Mm-hmm.
We're not gonna have access to 52nd until pavement is done next year. Because of construction and all of the hauling they're doing. They're not gonna.
Oh, okay.
So we don't get access to 52nd until they're done with construction. On paving everything next year.
Okay. So you can drive out there, you just can't drive to 52nd, because I've driven out on 76. And
You can drive on 76, I've done that, yes.
Yep.
But you're not getting 52nd.
Nope.
And you're probably not gonna get down the frontage road to go into Walmart anytime soon either.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
That's
They
too bad. I
closed
thought
off
they
that
would.
access I saw coming north from Texas here. Out where they're building the overpass there. I seen that the south and the north access are now cut off. Can't even drive back there to go explore. Now I gotta go by foot.
That's probably because they caught somebody on security back there driving when they shouldn't have been.
Huh, I wonder who that would have been.
I'm surprised. I would have thought they'd wanted traffic on 45th on that gravel just to help pack it down. But I suppose the trucks for that one area will pack it quite well. It's just there's that one other area.
It's still there from 52nd down to 64th.
Okay.
Have you seen the trucks they're driving on that?
No, I don't have a telescope.
Oh, no. Oh, side dump trucks. They must have 30 trucks going, hauling the dirt
Okay.
for the new interstate.
Okay. But that's coming. Which direction is that coming from?
It's coming from the Lake Fargo dirt pile.
Oh, okay. So
Then
they're
it comes
64th.
up, and it comes
Got it.
up 45th, comes up 45th, 52nd,
And then over.
and
Yep.
then down South 25th.
Okay. Oh well. Okay. But at least the road looks nice. I drove out there last night. I like it's looking good. So I'll be glad when it's paved then.
The last
Back
thing
to
I
you.
had for you was the special assessment. Comments on the preliminary special assessment list is next Tuesday at 5 o'clock at the fire hall, correct?
The objection here.
The objection hearing to the
That's
special
the fire
assessment.
hall. Yeah, we gotta make sure that gets out there.
Fire next Tuesday at the
Yes.
fire hall at 5.
If anybody asks you about the objection hearing, I encourage anybody, if they are going to have an objection, one, to submit it in writing. Two, please do not just say, I object, and that's it, because that doesn't really tell the Special Assessment Commission anything. Now, we'll forward that on if that's what they want to do. However,
Not gonna-
if they're going to have objections, say, I object to the proposed assessment, here's my reason why, or my reasons why, and list them out. That's the most productive letter for the Assessment Commission, because then they at least have something to look at, and understand where that person objecting is coming from.
Yep. All right. Anything else, Jim? Russ, are you good? Or just double checking? All right, Brandon.
Okay. I'm going to just, two really quick items. One, future land use map. That was brought to council here a little while back. Expected probably back to you in October. I am listening to the different concerns that were brought up. I met with one developer that did discuss their concerns at council last time council saw this. And I'm going to meet with the other one here in the near future, just get their feedback too. And then we'll come back to council for discussion of it. So we did not forget about it. We'll be coming back for more discussion. Other item I had is that we have hired a new finance director. Her name is Elizabeth, or she goes by Liz Heisey, and she starts next Monday. Has roots from North Dakota. She's moving up here from Texas, so her husband was in the oil industry before. So but we're excited to have her up here. Like I said, she's moving up this week here, and we'll start next Monday. So,
I don't think anybody's more excited than Wendy.
I don't
True.
know.
I heard really good things about her too, from some people that actually know her,
Mhm.
that I met at the conference, so.
Mhm.
Yeah, and she knows Black Mountain, so she won't
Yeah.
have.
Yep. Good.
So, awesome.
That's it?
Okay. Yep, I kept it short for you.
Excellent. All right, so portfolio reports. See a couple of things here. I was just going to mention about the 76 to 45th. Shot me all down on that one, Russ.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you knew.
I driven out there, man. It looked good. Anyway,
He was that car.
Anyway, so that, I was gonna talk about that. The other thing is, over the next couple weeks here, I do wanna have a one-on-one with all the council members, so don't be surprised if you get a phone call to set up something. I don't care when, we can do it at noon, or we can do it in the evening, or whatever. We'll work around everybody's schedules, but I would like to meet with you guys one-on-one. This is something that kinda came across here back in 2016. If I remember correctly, we had like 2 developments in play, with the third one being Lost River Edition. Was getting going. Currently, the way it sounds right now, we're gonna have 12 in play this year.
Could.
That's a heck of a increase, and that's kind of why we're dealing with what we're dealing with here, folks, so just to understand that. Was at the League of Cities here over the last, well, what did we leave? Wednesday night? I left Wednesday night, so it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Good conference. There's a few things they could have added, I think, but all in all, it was a good conference, so be looking forward to that. The other thing that Blake, who is the CEO of League of Cities, is retiring here at the end of the month. I'm going to be sad to see him go. He was a good guy. And I did receive a Leadership Excellent Award out there due to some nominations from people I know here. So I appreciate that, guys, and thanks for what all you do too as well. So thanks to staff and council members who were involved in that one. And that is what I've got. All right, Sarah.
Don't have much, literally just drove back from Texas. Really, really good to be home, although I came here before I even went to my house. So, priorities, right? Priorities.
Yeah.
I did want to check if there had been an update on annexation progress at all, Lucas?
Hopefully
No.
we hear something this week.
Okay, no updates yet, so we're still in limbo, so nobody will receive any of their signed paperwork back yet until such time as that goes through the formal process.
Right.
Okay. That's really some of the only questions I've had outside of other minor inquiries from residents and neighbors and stuff that I've handled independently.
You will probably be the third person to know when we get the okay or whatever from the law judge.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Right?
I'll make sure of it.
Attaboy.
Get a lot of inquiries, so I realize the process only goes as fast as it goes. There's nothing we can do about it, but I have some anxious people that are very interested in the outcome.
Yep.
Thank you.
I too went to the League of Cities conference. It was very informative. I learned a lot, especially for being new to the council. So I'm really, really glad that I went to that. And then I was going to mention as well that we are looking for some volunteers to kind of help get things kicked off with planning the 150th anniversary. And we did put a post on Facebook, but if you are interested in helping out with that and kind of being like a steering committee and taking some ownership of some things that we could get going there, that would be great. And the email that you can email is just pr@cityofhorace.com. So go ahead and sign up to help out with the community. I would really like to see a lot of community involvement in that, because it's a pretty big deal. So
Is that gonna be next year?
2 years. Yep, so we kind of wanted to jumpstart. I think we're looking to start meeting with volunteers come the new year. So we're just trying to gather as many people that want to help out with that. And if you also have any fun facts or information, to kind of reach out as well, because that would be really cool to have some knowledge from longtime residents. So
Yeah, some of the history of
Yeah,
Horace
yeah.
would be impressive for some of us that haven't been here as long as so many others.
yeah,
So
yeah, it's pretty exciting.
that
And
would be cool.
Sally and Bobby and myself, we've been just really kind of working together and thinking of really fun things to kind of go with it. So yeah, but that's pretty much all I had.
Okay, cool. Chelsea.
Is that gonna be on bean days?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm sure you guys will do that, but with the high school kids or the middle school kids, probably would be great resources for something like that. I don't have anything, I guess, but I did wanna mention the, storm grate by the senior center. It's broken, it's been broken for years, but, my daughter did almost lose her shoe in it. It's kinda dangerous for people on bikes too, so maybe Public Works wants to take a look at that. I know it's very minimal with the condition of everything over there right now.
We will look at
The
it.
gaping hole next to it, but I'd like to see it replaced, that's all.
Okay, Jeff, go ahead.
I also attended the conference for the League of Cities this past weekend, or Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Congratulations, Mr. Mayor, on your award. And other than that, just another reminder for all the residents that got letters. Like Ricky said, if you do want to send something into the city, please give an explanation as to why you do not agree with an assessment. And then, other than that, I was gonna ask about, do you have any update on building permits? And for residents that do wanna try to still build something this year, how backed up are we before the snow flies?
The backlog is there within a week.
Okay.
So within a few days for the most part on things, so if anybody wants to build anything, now keep in mind as current, they always change based on whatever's submitted. As for number of building permits, I have not gotten that from our building inspectors here recently, but I'll get it for us, so, yeah. We did have it slow down quite a bit in August, that is normal. August is a slower month typically, because you have your rush of the builders and they're trying to complete the houses. A lot of times you'll see houses pop up again, like building permits pop up September, October. They're trying to get the footings in and the foundation in before the frost. So we anticipate to get some coming as again. But yes, if anybody has anything that they need a building permit for, there isn't a big wait right now.
Okay.
So commercial, there is a little bit of a wait, but for residential, there's not much of a wait.
That's all I got.
Cool. All right, then I'm gonna look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Jeff